My name is Kale Arden, and the day my life became completely unfair started with a loaf of bread. Not a dragon egg, not a cursed sword, not a princess falling out of the sky. Bread. I was 16, broke, hungry, and standing in the back alley of the worst city in the kingdom with exactly 3 copper coins, 1 torn boot, and a game system that had apparently decided I deserved the most boring class in existence. Porter. That was my class. Other people awakened as flame knights, spirit archers, rune priests, beast tamers, and all kinds of ridiculous things that made crowds cheer. When my crystal displayed Porter, the examiner actually coughed to hide his laugh. My one skill was inventory. That was it. No sword mastery, no magic, no combat blessing. I could put things into a private storage space where time seemed to stop. The examiner told me it was useful for carrying luggage. I told him his face was useful for scaring rats. Then he threw me out. So there I was, sitting beside a drain, tearing my single loaf of bread into pieces because I was trying to make it last 3 days. I ate half and placed the other half into my inventory. The next morning, I opened the inventory and stared. Yesterday, I had stored 1/2 loaf. Now the display said 1.012 loaves. At first, I thought I was still asleep. Then I took it out. There was the original piece of bread plus a tiny extra chunk stuck beside it like the universe had tipped me 1%. I ate the extra chunk. It tasted normal. That should have been the moment I realized I had received a power capable of destroying every known market, kingdom, guild, tax office, and probably several religions. Instead, I thought, nice, free crumbs. The next day, I stored 10 apples. A day later, I had 10.1 apples. The system did not care that 0.1 apples were stupid. It simply created a perfectly cut slice of apple equal to 1/10 of the whole. So I stored 100 pebbles. The next day, 101. Then 100 cheap arrows. 101. Then 100 copper coins. 101. I stared at the extra copper coin for almost 5 minutes. Money could reproduce. Inside my pocket dimension, capitalism had turned into livestock breeding. I sprinted through the market so fast I knocked over a cabbage cart, bought 2 sacks of rice, 3 bundles of firewood, 50 iron nails, and every low-grade healing potion I could afford. I shoved all of it into my inventory. Then I waited. The waiting was terrible. 1% per day sounded small when you were poor. If I stored 10 potions, I got 1/10 of a potion the next day. That was not going to make me king by next weekend. But I had spent enough time hauling boxes for merchants to understand one important thing. Compounding was evil. Beautiful, glorious evil. 1% a day did not mean 365% a year. It stacked on itself. The item gained 1%. Then the next day, the larger amount gained 1% again. I borrowed a charcoal stick and spent an entire night doing ugly math on the wall of an abandoned warehouse. 1 item became about 2 after 70 days, about 4 after another 70, then 8, then 16, and it just kept going. A single rare item, if left alone long enough, could become a mountain. That was when I made my first real rule. Never waste inventory space on trash if I could store something rare. My second rule was even more important. Never tell anyone what the skill actually did. 3 days later, I broke both rules. I was working as a porter for an F-rank adventuring party called the Silver Ferrets. They were not silver, and none of them owned a ferret. Their leader, Bram, had named the team after seeing a silver ferret on a beer label. He was a level 12 swordsman with a scar across his cheek that he claimed came from an ogre. I later found out it came from falling into a chicken coop. His party included Mira, a wind mage who charged people to compliment her hat, Doss, a shield fighter who treated every meal like a sacred ceremony, and Pell, a thief who stole only from people poorer than him because richer people had guards. I carried their tents. Our job was simple. Enter a goblin nest, kill 20 goblins, return with 20 right ears. Bram said, "Stay behind us, Porter. If things get dangerous, protect the bags." I said, "With what?" He pointed at my face. "Improvise." 10 minutes later, the goblins attacked from the ceiling. Nobody had considered ceiling goblins. Mira screamed. Doss raised his shield in the wrong direction. Bram swung his sword and hit a stalactite. Pell vanished, which I assumed was a thief skill until I saw him sprinting back toward the exit. I did the only thing I could. I opened my inventory and dumped 1,000 iron nails into the tunnel. I had bought 50 nails a week earlier. With daily growth and several more cheap purchases, I had been accumulating them because I thought I might sell nails to builders. Instead, they became a weaponized floor. 20 goblins landed barefoot on a sea of nails. The screaming was immediate. Bram looked at me. I looked at Bram. Then Doss shouted, "Why do you have 1,000 nails?" I said, "I'm afraid of furniture." That answer somehow satisfied him. The party recovered and defeated the goblins. Deeper inside the cave, we found something none of us expected. A crystal vein, not normal crystal. Moonsteel crystal. Moonsteel was used in high-tier enchanted weapons. A thumb-sized shard cost more than I had earned in my entire life. Bram's eyes almost exploded. We dug until our fingers bled and collected 7 shards. Then the cave shook. A cave troll crawled through the rear wall. This thing was enormous. Its head scraped the ceiling. One arm was thicker than Bram's whole body. Its health bar had enough digits to make me lose interest in counting. Bram charged. The troll slapped him through a rock column. Mira fired a wind blade. The troll sneezed. Doss planted his shield. The troll used him as a sled. I stood there with the moonsteel shards in my bag and suddenly understood that dying would be very bad for my long-term investment strategy. So I opened my inventory. What did I have? Rice, nails, water, cheap knives, healing potions, 112 clay cups, a coiled rope, and 3,000 marbles. The marbles had been an accident. A toy seller had paid me in merchandise 2 weeks ago, and I had dumped them into storage because I forgot about them. I dropped all 3,000 under the troll's feet. The troll stepped forward. Its legs became philosophy. Left wanted to go east. Right wanted to go west. The rest of the troll wanted to remain employed. It crashed backwards so hard the cave ceiling cracked. Then I dumped the nails. Then the clay cups. I had no reason for the cups. I panicked. The troll stood up wearing pottery like jewelry. Mira laughed so hard she missed her next spell. Bram crawled out from the rubble and shouted, "Stop throwing kitchenware and do something useful." I said fine. I threw the cheap knives, all 800 of them. For one beautiful second, the cave became a metal rainstorm. Most bounced off the troll's hide. But trolls have eyes. The troll learned this fact at the same time I did. It covered its face. Bram climbed its arm. Mira blasted its knee. And Doss finally stopped being a sled long enough to ram his shield into its ankle. The troll fell. Bram drove his sword into the back of its neck. Silence. Then the entire party turned toward me. I had just produced thousands of items from nowhere. This was the moment for a convincing lie. I said large inventory. Pell, who had apparently returned in time to claim credit, narrowed his eyes. How large? I smiled. Large. That night, we split the moonsteel. Bram took 3 shards as party leader. Mira and Doss got 1 each. Pell claimed he deserved 1 despite disappearing for half the fight. I received 1 because I had provided logistical support. Logistical support. I had turned a cave troll into a pottery exhibit. Still, I did not argue. I placed my moonsteel shard into my inventory, and I never touched it. That tiny piece of blue metal became the seed of everything. For the next month, I worked like a lunatic. I joined cheap quests, bought underpriced materials, stored anything hard to obtain, and sold only small amounts so nobody noticed. My inventory skill had another secret. It did not seem to have a normal capacity. At level 1, it showed 1,000 storage slots, but identical items stacked together without limit. 1,000,000 arrows used 1 slot. 1,000,000,000 arrows would still use 1 slot. That meant quantity did not matter. Rarity did. So I started hunting rare things in ridiculous ways. A restaurant offered a gold coin to anyone who could eat its inferno pepper stew without drinking water. I did not care about the gold. I cared about the pepper. Inferno peppers were imported from a volcanic island and cost 3 silver each. I ate 1 spoonful of stew, lost feeling in my eyebrows, pretended to faint, and fell face first into the serving pot. While everyone screamed, I stored 6 peppers directly from the stew. I won no prize. I did gain 6 peppers. 30 days later, I had more than 8. A month after that, nearly 11. Then a traveling beast tamer brought a frost salamander to the plaza. For 1 copper, people could touch its tail. I paid 1 copper, touched the tail, and asked if it shed scales. The tamer said yes. I asked if I could have one. He said no. I asked if I could buy one. He said 10 gold. I laughed. He laughed. Then the salamander sneezed, and 1 loose scale landed in my hair. I walked away calmly. The moment I turned the corner, I screamed in triumph. Into the inventory it went. I stole nothing. The universe had paid me a dividend. Soon my storage looked less like a porter's bag and more like a dragon's retirement account. Moonsteel shard, 1.47. Frost salamander scale, 1.29. Inferno pepper, 15.7. Minor healing potion, 2,431. Iron arrow, 18,904. Nails, too many. I stopped checking nails. Then came the day the silver ferrets accepted a quest we absolutely should not have accepted. A merchant caravan needed protection through the Black Pine Pass. The pay was 10 gold each. Bram saw 10 gold and stopped reading the quest description. The description included the words recent wyvern sightings. Mira pointed this out. Bram said wyverns were just large birds with attitude. I asked if he had ever fought one. He said no. I asked if he had ever seen one. He said no. I asked how he knew they were birds. He told me to carry the tents. We reached Black Pine Pass at sunset. The mountains were red with evening light. The road twisted between cliffs, and below us was a drop so deep I could not see the bottom. The merchants were nervous. The horses were nervous. Pell had already hidden inside a barrel. Then the sky screamed. A shadow covered the caravan. The wyvern dropped like a boulder with wings. Its claws ripped one wagon in half. Its scales were dark green. Its teeth were longer than my forearm, and its level was 38. Bram was level 14. Mira was level 13. Doss was level 15. I was level 6 because apparently throwing cups at monsters did not count as respectable combat. The wyvern inhaled. Mira shouted, "Poison breath." Everyone scattered. I opened my inventory and dropped 3,000 sacks of rice in front of the wyvern. The rice had multiplied more than I expected. The road disappeared beneath white sacks. The wyvern's poison cloud hit the pile. For some reason, one of the merchants shouted, "My rice!" It was not his rice. The wyvern charged through the sacks, tore them open, and transformed the entire pass into a blizzard of uncooked grain. I could not see anything. Neither could the wyvern. This was helpful until it started spinning in circles and smashing wagons randomly. I needed something better. My eyes landed on one inventory slot, Inferno Pepper. 23.41. I had been saving them. This seemed like an emergency. I took out 20 peppers, crushed them between two metal plates, and tossed the powder into the rice cloud. The wyvern inhaled. There are moments in life when you witness something so powerful that it changes you. Watching a 30-foot poison wyvern breathe volcanic pepper dust was one of those moments. It froze. Its eyes widened. Its wings locked. Then it sneezed. The blast launched half the caravan backward. It sneezed again. A tree left the mountain. On the third sneeze, the wyvern itself stumbled off the cliff. We all watched it fall. Bram slowly turned to me. "What was that?" I said, "Seasoning." The wyvern caught itself before hitting the bottom and flew away, probably to declare war on vegetables. The merchants survived. We reached the next city, and that was where I made my first truly dangerous mistake. I sold moonsteel. Not much. Just a fraction. My single shard had grown for months. The inventory displayed 2.81 moonsteel shards, which meant I could remove one whole shard and still have more than I started with. That felt magical. I took one shard to a respected blacksmith named Old Ven. He had arms like tree trunks, a beard full of sparks, and a sign outside his shop that said, "No credit, no whining, no cursed swords after sunset." I placed the moonsteel on his counter. He stopped breathing. "Where did you get this?" "Found it." "Where?" "Near the ground." He stared at me. I smiled. He tested it 3 times. Then he paid me 47 gold. 47. I had never held more than 12 gold in my life. I immediately made the smartest possible decision. I bought a warehouse. Then I made the stupidest possible decision. I bought a giant hat. The hat had purple feathers. I wore it for one afternoon before a child pointed at me and laughed until he fell over. I stored the hat in my inventory. Unfortunately, I forgot about it. Months later, I would have 137 giant purple hats. This would become relevant during a siege. For now, I used the warehouse as camouflage. People thought I was becoming a small merchant. I began buying goods in bulk, pretending to store them physically, while most of my wealth sat inside the inventory. Then I discovered the third rule of my skill. It could multiply living things if the system classified them as items. I found this out with an egg. A moonfin trout egg. Moonfin trout were rare silverfish that spawned once every 7 years in underground rivers. Nobles ate their roe at banquets because rich people enjoyed putting expensive dots on crackers. A fisherman sold me one preserved egg in a glass vial. I stored it. The next day, the inventory said 1.01 moonfin trout eggs. I stared at the tiny additional blob in the vial. Then I asked the system a question out loud. "If I get a dragon egg, are you going to make more dragons?" The system did not answer. I took that as a threat. From then on, my priority changed. I wanted one of everything rare. One phoenix feather, one unicorn horn shaving, 1 ancient mana crystal, 1 drop of sacred spring water, 1 seed from a world tree, 1 dragon scale. Not because I needed them now, because time was my strongest weapon. Every day that passed made me richer. Every day that passed made the inventory more ridiculous. The problem was that rare items belonged to dangerous people, and dangerous people were beginning to notice a nobody porter somehow had rare materials for sale. The first to find me was Lady Seraphine Vale. She was a noble alchemist famous for creating anti-curse elixirs and poisoning 3 husbands. According to rumors, only 2 were accidents. She entered my warehouse wearing a red dress, silver gloves, and the expression of someone who had already decided the room belonged to her. Behind her stood 6 armored guards. I was eating soup. She looked at my soup, then at me. Kale Arden? That depends. On what? Whether you owe me money. She did not laugh. Her guards did. She turned her head slightly. They stopped. She placed a frost salamander scale on my table. My stomach dropped. It looked almost identical to the ones I had quietly sold through 3 different markets. These scales came from creatures that have not been legally hunted in 6 years, she said. Yet 3 appeared for sale last month. I drank my soup. Interesting. They all passed through merchants connected to you. More interesting. And each scale had the same magical growth rings. That made me pause. Growth rings? Apparently even copied items were perfect down to tiny magical structures. Seraphine leaned closer. I want to know your supplier. I did not have one, so I invented one. His name is Gregor. Gregor what? Gregor North. Where does he live? North. 1 guard covered a cough. Seraphine stared at me for several seconds. Then she smiled. It was worse than when she looked angry. Fine. Tell Gregor North I will pay 1,000 gold for 10 intact frost salamander scales. My brain exploded. At that moment, I had 43. I pretended to be offended. 1,000? You expected more? I expected you to understand how rare they are. She raised 1 eyebrow. 2,000. I nearly swallowed the spoon. Gregor might consider it. He has 7 days. She stood and walked out. The moment the door shut, I crawled under the table and whispered, I love being a porter. 7 days later, I delivered 10 scales. Seraphine paid 2,000 gold. I bought an abandoned mine, not because I wanted to mine, because nobody questioned why carts went in and out of a mine. I built hidden rooms underground. I hired workers to make crates. I registered a company called Arden Logistics because the word sounded boring enough to prevent investigation. My public business moved grain, tools, potions, and weapons. My real business was patience. By the end of the year, my original moonsteel shard had become more than 37 shards. The single salamander scale had become over 30. The moonfin egg had become dozens, and my healing potion stack had crossed 1 million because I kept reinvesting profits into buying more. 1 million potions, 1% per day. That meant 10,000 new potions every morning, for free. I had become a potion factory that did not own a factory. That should have been enough. It was not, because the world made the mistake of showing me an auction catalog. The Royal Grand Auction was held once every 5 years. Kings, guildmasters, archmages, warlords, saints, and criminals pretending not to be criminals all gathered in the capital to buy treasures that normal people were not supposed to know existed. I flipped through the catalog casually. Then I saw lot number 77, a seed of Igra, a seed from one of the 9 world trees. Supposedly, if planted in perfect soil and fed enough mana, it could grow into a tree whose leaves healed curses, whose bark strengthened magic, and whose fruit extended life. Starting price? 800,000 gold. I had around 400,000 in liquid coin, plus enough inventory wealth to buy a small kingdom if I sold it all. I looked at the picture of that seed for a long time. 1 seed, 1% per day. I did the math. Then I whispered, I need that seed. My accountant, a terrifying old woman named Nara, looked up from her ledger. No. I pointed at the page. Yes. No. It's an investment. You said that about the abandoned mine. The mine worked. You also said that about the giant hat. That was different. You bought 3 hats. I was experimenting with fashion. You looked like a poisoned peacock. I closed the catalog. Nara, imagine having a world tree seed. I am imagining our creditors beating us with sticks. What creditors? We have no debt. We will if you attend that auction. She was right. So naturally, I went. The Royal Grand Auction took place beneath a crystal dome the size of a stadium. Every bidder wore enchanted masks to hide their identity. This was supposed to prevent political conflict. It did not work because everyone recognized the king's crown sticking out above his his mask. I wore a cheap black mask and sat in the back row. Lot after lot sold for insane amounts. A spear that could summon lightning sold for 2 million. A bottle containing the last breath of an ancient dragon sold for 3 million. A cursed ring that supposedly whispered winning gambling numbers sold for 500,000 to a man who looked immediately regretful. Then Lot 77 appeared. The seed was tiny, brown, unimpressive. I wanted it more than anything. 800,000. The auctioneer announced. A paddle rose. 850. Another. 900. I waited. 1 million. 1,100,000. My hands started sweating. At one point, 3 million gold was offered by a masked woman in the front row. Nara's voice echoed in my memory. Do not be an idiot. I raised my paddle. 3,100,000. The entire room turned. My soul left my body. The masked woman looked back at me. She raised to 3.5 million. I raised to 4. Somewhere, Nara probably felt a disturbance in the universe and started sharpening a knife. The woman raised to 4.5. I had a choice. Stop, be sensible, keep my company safe, or remember that a single seed could eventually become thousands. I raised the paddle. 5 million. Silence. The auctioneer looked delighted. The woman lowered her paddle. Sold. I had just spent more money than entire cities earned in a year on something smaller than a grape. I took possession of this seed. The second it touched my hand, I put it into my inventory. Seed of Igra. 1. I smiled. Then the system flashed. Special grade item detected. Interest compatibility confirmed. Growth catalyst unlocked. I stopped smiling. A new line appeared beneath my inventory skill. Stored items of legendary grade or higher generate interest at enhanced efficiency when total stored wealth crosses hidden thresholds. I stared. Hidden thresholds? Enhanced efficiency? The system had more rules. I had spent a year thinking 1% per day was the entire cheat. It was only the beginning. Then every torch in the auction hall went out. People screamed. Glass shattered. A magical barrier slammed over the exits. Someone shouted, "Nobody move!" That usually means everyone moves. The room exploded into chaos. I felt a blade touch the back of my neck. A quiet voice whispered, "Give me the world tree seed." I swallowed. "I don't have it." "You purchased it." "I lose things." The blade pressed harder. "You have 3 seconds." I opened my inventory. I had millions of items. Most people under threat would search for a weapon. I searched for this stupidest thing available. Giant purple hat. 137. Perfect. I dumped all 137 hats into the darkness. The assassin shouted something extremely rude. Feathers filled the air. People tripped. Somebody cast fire magic. The feathers ignited. Now the auction hall was dark, on fire, and full of expensive hats. I rolled under a table. The assassin chased me. I threw marbles. He did not fall. Professional. I threw nails. He jumped. Very professional. I dumped 10,000 live moonfin trout eggs onto the floor. This did absolutely nothing. I had selected the wrong inventory slot. The assassin paused. We both looked at the slimy silver eggs. I said, "That one was accidental." He lunged. I grabbed a crystal display stand and blocked the blade. The stand shattered. Inside it was Lot 76, an enchanted iron chain nobody had bought. The chain touched my hand. Inventory. I stored it instantly. The auction house system screamed an alarm because I had technically stolen an unsold artifact. I did not care. I took the chain back out behind the assassin's legs and yanked. He stumbled. I dropped 20,000 healing potions on him. Glass bottles are not very dangerous individually. 20,000 glass bottles falling from 10 feet are an architectural event. He vanished beneath a red mountain of medicine. I sprinted toward the exit. Then the ceiling cracked. A gigantic black spear punched through the crystal dome. The barrier shattered. Moonlight poured in. A man in bone-white armor descended on the spear like he had rehearsed the entrance for weeks. Every high-ranking adventurer in the room went silent. I knew him from wanted posters. Ver Malrek, the Grave Prince, leader of the Black Halo Syndicate. Level unknown. Bounty 10 million gold. He looked directly at me. Not the king, not the archmages. Me. Kale Arden, he said. My stomach dropped. I had never told the auction house my real name. He smiled. "You have something that belongs to the future." I backed away. "I have several things." "Can you be specific?" "The inventory." That was the moment I realized someone knew. Not about the seed, about my skill. And suddenly every absurd trick, every secret sale, every rare item I had collected felt much less funny. Ver raised one hand. Black chains erupted from the floor. The strongest people in the kingdom moved to attack him. I did not. I ran, because I had learned something important while being a porter. Heroes charge toward danger. Rich people hire heroes, and I plan to become very, very rich. I made it 6 steps before one of Vare's black chains wrapped around my ankle. I hit the floor face first. Not heroic, not graceful. My expensive anonymous auction mask cracked in half and skidded away. Several nobles gasped when they recognized me, not because I was famous, because apparently the mysterious idiot who had just spent 5 million gold was the same idiot who sold grain near the east gate. Vare pulled the chain. I shot across the floor toward him. My first thought was that I was about to die. My second thought was that dying 5 minutes after buying a World Tree seed would be a terrible return on investment. So I reached into my inventory and grabbed the heaviest stack I could find. Lead training weights. Quantity: 84,211. I took out exactly 4,000, not onto Vare, onto the chain. 4,000 lead weights appeared at once, dragging the magical chain to the floor with a crash. Vare's arm jerked down. He looked surprised. I liked that expression on him. Then the floor cracked. I liked that less. The auction hall was built over an old royal cistern, which I knew because I had delivered wine here 3 months earlier and gotten lost trying to find a bathroom. The marble beneath us collapsed. Vare jumped back. I did not have time to jump. I fell through the floor along with thousands of lead weights, burning hats, moonfin eggs, 2 nobles, half an appetizer table, and 1 extremely angry assassin. We crashed into underground water. The lead vanished beneath me. I came up coughing. Someone nearby yelled, "My ankle." Someone else yelled, "My wig." I swam through total darkness while the auction hall continued exploding overhead. The assassin splashed behind me. "You cannot escape," I shouted back. People say that a lot. I opened my inventory and removed 300 wooden doors. You may wonder why I owned 300 doors. 2 months earlier, a carpenter had gone bankrupt and offered me his entire stock for cheap. I bought it because doors were technically useful and then forgot they existed. 300 doors slammed into the cistern water around me. They floated. I climbed onto one. The assassin did the same. That annoyed me, so I removed 500 more doors. Now the cistern was a wooden nightmare. The assassin jumped from door to door like some kind of terrifying frog. I paddled with a chair. He gained on me. Then I remembered the cistern drainage tunnel. I stored the door beneath me, dropped into the water, and let the current pull me under an iron grate. The assassin landed where I had been and stared down. I waved. Then the current dragged me into a pipe. It was disgusting. It smelled like history and dead onions. But 15 minutes later, I crawled out of a sewer canal half a mile from the Palace District. The most important manhunt of my life had officially begun with me covered in slime. I ran straight to Arden Logistics. Nara was waiting at the door. She looked at my clothes. She looked at the smoke rising over the royal auction hall. Then she looked at me. "How much did you spend?" 5 million. She closed her eyes. "Good news. I got the seed." She opened her eyes. "Better news. We need to flee the capital immediately." She walked into the warehouse without saying anything. I followed. "Nara?" She picked up a ledger. "Nara, you're being very calm." She threw the ledger at my head. I ducked. "You brainless turnip. We can discuss finances while moving." 5 million gold. Technically, it's a seed. You paid 5 million for Dirt's unborn child. It's legendary Dirt. Another ledger flew past me. I explained the assassination attempt, Vare, and the fact that the Black Halo knew about my inventory. That changed her expression. Nara had spent 30 years managing merchant houses. She understood threats better than most adventurers. "Who else knows?" she asked. "Maybe everyone who heard Vare shout my name, so everyone important." "Possibly," she sighed. "Burn the records." I blinked. "What?" "Take the valuable papers. Burn the rest. Wake the trusted workers. Tell them we are relocating." "Where?" "Somewhere you have not already annoyed a prince, criminal syndicate, or accountant. That reduces our options." We left before dawn. I emptied the warehouse into my inventory in 12 minutes. Crates, desks, ledgers, shelves, spare wagon wheels, sacks of grain, potion stock, tools, furniture, and for reasons I still do not understand, a life-sized wooden statue of Bram holding a sword. Bram had commissioned it himself and then refused to pay the sculptor. I bought it for 3 silver because I thought it was funny. The silver ferrets came with us, mostly because I did not give them a choice. I told Bram assassins were hunting me. He asked how much the quest paid. I said, your continued existence. He negotiated for lunch. We traveled north disguised as a potato caravan. This worked better than expected. Nobody wants to inspect potatoes. After 3 days, we reached the border town of Reedfall. That was when the World Tree seed hit its first full unit of interest. Seed of Igra, 1.030301. I could not remove a fraction of a living seed, so the inventory held the decimal as growth credit until it reached 1 whole additional unit. That gave me time to think. 100 days would not even double it under normal compounding. I needed speed. The enhanced efficiency message bothered me. How did I trigger the hidden thresholds? Total stored wealth seemed obvious, so I did something reckless. I stopped selling valuable items. Everything went inside. Gold coins, moonsteel, potions stock, monster materials, enchanted weapons. I even stored the deeds to my properties, although I was not sure whether the system valued paperwork or just enjoyed collecting my legal problems. 3 days later, a message appeared. Stored value threshold reached. Interest rate bonus plus 0.1%. My mouth opened. The base rate changed from 1% to 1.1% per day. That looked tiny. It was not tiny. Compounding speed had just increased permanently. I needed to cross more thresholds, so naturally I became obsessed. We settled temporarily in Reedfall, a muddy town known for two things, mushrooms and tax evasion. I loved it immediately. I rented every empty barn and started buying high-value items from adventurers traveling through the border. Magic crystals, wyvern claws, enchanted cloth, dungeon keys, rare herbs. If someone had only one, I wanted it. If someone had 1,000, I wanted one. Nara thought I had lost my mind. She was correct, but for profitable reasons. Then a mercenary walked into my shop and placed a broken dagger on the counter. The blade was black, cracked down the center, and covered in tiny golden runes. How much? I asked. He shrugged. 30 silver. My appraisal skill was terrible, but the inventory reacted before I could touch it. Legendary fragment detected. I nearly fell out of my chair. Why so cheap? Cursed. I slowly moved my hand away. What kind of curse? Anyone who holds it hears screaming. How bad? He picked up the dagger. His face went pale. He dropped it. Bad. I gave him 30 silver. Then, using a pair of kitchen tongs, I shoved the dagger into my inventory. Silence. No curse. The inventory treated it as an item and completely isolated its effects. I almost kissed the floor. A cursed legendary object that nobody wanted was perfect for me. I waited 1 day. Broken Dagger of the Morning King. 1.011 units. Even legendary artifacts could multiply. That changed everything. The following week, I started hunting cursed items. Normal adventurers avoided them. Priests charged huge fees to cleanse them. Collectors were terrified of them. I saw discounts. I bought a cursed crown that caused nightmares. A cursed mirror that insulted whoever looked into it. A cursed shield that screamed whenever struck. A pair of cursed boots that forced the wearer to dance when someone played a flute. The boots were technically epic rather than legendary, but I bought them anyway because they were hilarious. The mirror insulted me exactly once before I stored it. It called my haircut an act of surrender. I still think about that. Within 2 months, my stored wealth crossed 3 more hidden thresholds. Interest rate, 1.4% per day. Now items doubled roughly every 50 days. My numbers were becoming stupid. 1 million potions became 2 million, then 4, then 8. Thousands of arrows became tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. My moonsteel stack crossed 1,000. The frost salamander scales crossed hundreds. The world tree seed finally reached 2. I removed the extra seed and stared at it in my palm. There were now 2 objects in the world that nations would kill for. One remained safely stored. One was mine to use, so I planted it. Not outside. I was not that reckless. We found an abandoned underground temple beneath Reedfall that locals refused to enter because they believed it was haunted. It was not haunted. It was full of bats. Bram screamed louder than the bats. We cleared them out and converted the deepest chamber into a greenhouse. Seraphine joined us there. Yes, the Poison Widow found me. She arrived wearing traveling clothes, 2 daggers, and a smile that told me she knew more than she should. You are difficult to locate, she said. That was the idea. Your imaginary supplier, Gregor North, is even harder. I coughed. She walked past me and inspected the underground chamber. I want to work with you. No, you have a duplication skill. I froze. No, I don't. You sold 12 frost salamander scales with identical microscopic mana patterns. Coincidence. You sold moonsteel from the same vein across 4 provinces. Hardworking miners. You purchased 1 moonfin egg. 3 months later, a merchant associated with you sold 20. Fish are romantic. She folded her arms. I do not know the exact mechanism, Kale, but I know you can increase items. I considered storing her in my inventory. The system probably would not let me. Also, Nara had asked me to stop solving social problems by checking whether people counted as items. Seraphine continued, I am not here to expose you. If I wanted that, I would have brought the Crown's investigators. Why help me? Because I have spent 15 years searching for ingredients too rare to use. You can make rare ingredients reusable. That got my attention. She pulled a tiny metal case from her pocket. Inside was one blue flower petal. The appraisal text appeared. Petal of the Dawn Lotus. Mythic grade. Mythic. I had never touched a mythic item. Seraphine saw my face. This flower blooms once every century, she said. A full lotus can cure almost any poison and repair damaged mana channels. There are believed to be only 4 petals left in the Western Kingdoms. My fingers twitched. You own one? I borrowed it. From who? A monastery. Do they know? No. I stared at her. She smiled. Do you want it or not? I wanted it so badly I could hear my inventory begging. What do you get? 1 replacement petal within 6 months. Then equal shares of anything produced beyond that. You want 50% for contributing 1 item? It is my stolen item. You just said borrowed. I am borrowing it without permission. That is stealing. Words are flexible. I liked her. I hated that I liked her. We made a deal. The moment the Dawn Lotus petal entered my inventory, the system shook, not metaphorically. A pulse of blue light burst through the interface. Mythic grade item detected. Stored value recalculated. Threshold reached. Interest rate bonus plus 0.5%. New rate 1.9% per day. I nearly shouted. 1 mythic petal had increased the rate more than millions of ordinary items. That revealed the real game. My inventory did not just reward total money value. It rewarded rarity. The best investment was not gold. It was uniqueness, things the world barely had, and I had just become addicted to collecting them. I spent the next 3 months doing increasingly unreasonable things. We raided a basilisk nest because I wanted one intact eye. I bought a royal chef's spoon because appraisal revealed it was made from meteor silver. I entered a haunted theater to collect a phantom silk curtain. The ghost haunting the theater refused to leave because it was still waiting for applause, so I sat in the audience for 40 minutes clapping while Bram cried behind a chair. The ghost bowed, vanished, and left behind 1 spectral thread, mythic material, into the inventory. We climbed a mountain to collect a lightning orchid that only opened during storms. Mira got struck by lightning 3 times. She blamed me. I told her the flower was worth it. She hit me with a wind spell. I collected the flower anyway. We entered the tomb of Emperor Sereth to find an ancient coin rumored to carry his blessing. The tomb was protected by 12 stone guardians. Bram wanted to fight them. I noticed all 12 guardians were standing on carved pressure plates, so I took out 20,000 gallons of cooking oil. Pell looked at me. Why do you have that much oil? Interest. I don't understand your life. Neither do I. We flooded the corridor. The stone guardians stepped forward, slipped, smashed into each other, and spent the next 10 minutes trying to stand up like angry furniture. We walked past them. At the Emperor's coffin we found the ancient coin. We also found Emperor Sereth. He was undead. He sat up and shouted something about thieves. I apologized. He summoned a spectral army. I apologized harder. Then I remembered my inventory contained over 1 million consecrated candles because I had purchased 10,000 from a church liquidation sale. I dumped candles everywhere. The tomb turned into the world's brightest birthday party. The holy wax weakened the undead soldiers. Mira lit them with 1 fire spell. The entire chamber became an ocean of tiny flames. Emperor Sereth stared at us from his coffin. I said, "Happy birthday?" He tried to curse me. Doss closed the coffin lid on him. We took the coin. I left him 200 gold as compensation. I am not a monster. The ancient coin turned out to be legendary, not mythic. Still useful. My rate climbed. 2.1%, 2.3%, 2.6%. At 2.6% per day, stacks doubled in less than a month. That meant every month, my rarest items effectively duplicated. The Dawn Lotus petal became 2, then 4. Seraphine returned the original to the monastery before they noticed. We kept the extras. The World Tree seed became 4, then 8. I planted 3 in hidden locations, 1 beneath our temple, 1 inside my abandoned mine, 1 on a secret island Seraphine claimed to own, although I later discovered she had simply declared it hers because nobody lived there. The trees grew slowly at first. Then, we fed them mana crystals. Then I realized mana crystals also multiplied, so we fed them more. The underground tree beneath Reedfall broke through 3 temple ceilings in 1 week. Its roots expanded through the bedrock. Its leaves glowed blue. Tiny spirit birds began appearing around it even though we were underground. Nara walked into the greenhouse, looked up at the 40-foot tree, then looked at me. You planted a world tree beneath a town. Yes. Why? It was underground. That is not an answer. It seemed private. The roots are currently lifting the mayor's house. I looked up. A shower of dust fell from the ceiling. Oh, we had to move the tree. Normally, moving a world tree would be impossible. Mine was still young enough to fit in the inventory. I touched the trunk. Store. The entire tree vanished. The system classified it as a planted item with attached soil mass. The hole left behind was enormous. The mayor's house dropped 6 feet. Nobody was hurt. The mayor blamed sinkholes. I donated money to repair the house. Then I bought a mountain. That is a sentence I never thought I would say. We relocated the tree into a hidden valley north of Reedfall and surrounded the valley with illusion barriers. Soon the other seedlings joined it. I thought we were finally safe. Then the Black Halo attacked. They came at midnight. Not 5 assassins, not 20. Hundreds. Black armored riders surrounded Reedfall. Shadow mages sealed the roads. Giant ravens circled overhead. Their symbol, a broken black sun, appeared across the sky. He had brought an army for me. I stood on the town wall in my sleep clothes while Bram tightened his armor. He looked at the enemy, then at me. How much did you anger them? I don't know. There are siege towers. I can see that. They brought a dragon. I looked. A skeletal dragon landed behind the enemy lines. Its wings were made of black smoke. Okay, I said. That feels excessive. Nara slapped the back of my head. This is what happens when you spend 5 million on a seed. This is not about the seed anymore. That somehow makes it worse. Ver appeared at the front of the army. His voice carried magically across the walls. Kale Arden, surrender your inventory skill and the town survives. I shouted back. How exactly do I surrender a skill? We remove your soul. Then no, I expected that. The siege began. Catapults fired black stones. Mages raised barriers. Reedfall had a town guard of 67 people. Half were over 50. One had forgotten his spear. We were doomed in any normal situation. Fortunately, I had not lived a normal situation in months. I opened my inventory. Iron arrows, 18,441,903. Healing potions, 41,003,112. Explosive alchemy flasks, 302,776. Reinforced shields, 88,921. Steel spears, 140,110. Caltrops, 9,003,441. Giant purple hats, 812. The hats were still multiplying. I really needed to delete that slot. I could not delete slots. First, I equipped the town. Every guard got new armor, 3 shields, 10 spears, 50 potions, and enough arrows to develop emotional problems. Then I filled the road outside the walls with caltrops, millions. The enemy cavalry charged. They stopped being cavalry. Horses refused to move through the metal field. Black Halo soldiers dismounted and advanced on foot, so I added marbles. Millions of marbles rolled down the slope. The front line collapsed. The second line tripped over the first. The third line tried to retreat and hit the fourth. From the wall, Doss whispered, "You have turned warfare into a children's accident." That's logistics. The shadow mages raised floating platforms to cross the field. I dumped 100,000 bags of flour into the wind. Mira understood instantly. She cast a gust spell. A white cloud covered the battlefield. Then I threw one tiny spark rune. Flower dust is extremely explosive. I knew this because Nara once banned me from storing open flour near fire crystals after what happened to Warehouse 3. The night became day. A rolling blast knocked enemy mages out of the air. Ver's barrier protected the center formation. He looked up at me. I waved. He did not wave back. Then the skeletal dragon attacked. It opened its mouth and fired a beam of black energy. The town barrier cracked instantly. People panicked. I checked my inventory. There was nothing normal that could stop a dragon beam, so I stopped thinking normally. I took out the cursed mirror. Not one cursed mirror. 1,612 cursed mirrors. I arranged them in a floating stack using inventory release points, angling them toward the sky. The dragon fired again. The beam hit the mirrors. Most shattered. But cursed mirrors were made to reflect harmful intent. That was the magical property I had ignored because I only cared about their rarity. The beam bounced, not cleanly. It split into hundreds of black rays firing in every direction. One hit a siege tower. One hit the ground. One vaporized a statue of Reedfall's founder that everyone hated anyway. And 3 hit the skeletal dragon. The dragon screamed. The cursed mirrors screamed too because apparently they enjoyed this. Then every mirror began insulting the dragon. Thousands of magical voices shouted things like, "Your wings look diseased," and "I have seen scarier chickens." The battlefield went silent. Even Vare seemed confused. The dragon became enraged and attacked the mirrors. I stored them before impact. The dragon crashed headfirst into the wall. Bram jumped onto its skull. "This is my moment," he yelled. The dragon shook once. Bram flew into a hay cart. Not his moment. Seraphine stepped onto the wall beside me holding a glass vial. "What is that?" I asked. "Concentrated Dawn Lotus extract mixed with basilisk venom." "That sounds contradictory." "It is." "What does it do?" "I have no idea." She threw it into the dragon's open mouth. The dragon froze. Its black smoke wings turned bright pink. Flowers erupted from its ribs. Then it sneezed butterflies. Seraphine stared. I need to write that down. The dragon collapsed. The Black Halo army hesitated. I thought we might win. Then Vare finally moved. He raised his hand. Every corpse on the battlefield stood up. Every broken siege tower repaired itself with black bone. Every fallen soldier rose as a shadow puppet. The numbers doubled instantly. I looked at my inventory, then at his army, then back at my inventory. He could recycle soldiers. I could multiply items. Fine, I could play quantity. I removed 3 million cheap wooden mannequins from storage. Again, there was a reason. A theater supply company had gone bankrupt. Actually, no, that was a terrible reason. I just buy strange things. 3 million wooden mannequins appeared across the hillside. Vare's undead army stopped. Everyone stopped. The valley was suddenly filled with blank wooden people. Mira whispered, "Kale." "Yes? Why?" "I'm thinking." "Think faster." Then I remembered the cursed dancing boots. Quantity. 22,409 pairs. And suddenly I had an idea so stupid it circled back to genius. I equipped 22,000 mannequins with cursed dancing boots. Pell, standing beside me, slowly lowered his bow. "No." I handed him a flute. His face went pale. "No." "Play." "Kale, play the flute." He played one note. 22,000 wooden mannequins began dancing. Not good dancing. Violent, cursed dancing. They kicked, spun, flipped, and launched themselves down the hill into the undead army. The first wave of Black Halo soldiers was hit by a screaming avalanche of wooden dancers. The mannequins could not feel pain. The boots would not let them stop. One mannequin spun so fast it knocked 6 soldiers over. Another performed something that looked like a cartwheel and became stuck in a siege engine. Pell started playing faster. The dancing got worse. I was crying from laughter while an enemy army was being assaulted by furniture. Vare was no longer smiling. He pointed directly at me. The air turned cold. A black spear formed above his hand. Seraphine shouted, "Move!" The spear crossed the battlefield instantly. Das jumped in front of me with his shield. The shield shattered. The spear went through his shoulder. He collapsed. Everything stopped being funny. I caught him before he hit the ground. His health dropped fast. Black curse marks spread from the wound. Normal healing potions failed. Seraphine grabbed his arm. "It is soul rot. Fix it." "I can slow it." "Fix it." "I need pure Dawn Lotus essence and a saint-grade catalyst." I had Dawn Lotus. I did not have a saint-grade catalyst. Then my inventory flashed. Stored item resonance detected. Cursed and sacred materials may be combined through forced stack synthesis. New function unlocked. Fusion. I stared at the message. I had no idea what forced stack synthesis meant. I did not care. I opened the new interface. 2 slots. Combine items. Risk. Unpredictable. Perfect. I selected Dawn Lotus Petal. Then I selected the Ancient Emperor coin, which carried a blessing. The system warned me. Legendary and mythic properties may mutate. Confirm? Yes. Light exploded inside the inventory. Both items vanished. A new item appeared. Saint's Dawn coin. Mythic grade. Effect. Purifies soul corruption once per target. I pulled it out and slammed it against Doss's chest. The coin melted into golden light. The black veins disappeared. Doss coughed. Then he opened his eyes. Did we win? I looked at the battlefield. Vera was walking through the dancing mannequins, destroying them with waves of shadow. No. Doss nodded weakly. Wake me when we do. He passed out. I stood. Something had changed. The fusion skill was dangerous. It was also insane, because my inventory could multiply the ingredients, which meant I could attempt combinations other people would never risk. If I destroyed a legendary item in a failed experiment, I could wait until more copies grew. The rarest crafting materials in the world were no longer precious. They were renewable. Vare had come to steal my inventory. Instead, he had forced it to evolve. I looked down at him. He looked up at me. I smiled. Bad timing, I said. Then I started combining cursed artifacts with explosives. The first fusion produced a grenade that complained. I am serious. I combined an explosive alchemy flask with a shard from the cursed mirror. The result was a fist-sized black glass sphere labeled Spite Bomb. Effect: detonates concentrated kinetic force while verbally humiliating the nearest hostile target. I pulled it out. The bomb immediately shouted, "Your posture is terrible." I looked at Seraphine. She looked at me. I threw it at Vare. The bomb flew across the battlefield screaming insults. "You dress like a funeral curtain." Vare raised a black barrier. The bomb struck it. Boom. The explosion shattered the barrier and launched Vare backward through 12 dancing mannequins. Pell stopped playing the flute. "Make more." "I have one." "Then make more." "I need time." That was the problem with my power. It was strongest tomorrow. Every battle happened today, so I started fusing everything I could afford to lose. Moonsteel plus explosive powder created Silver Burst Shrapnel. Frost Salamander Scale plus Healing Potion created a Cold Blood Elixir that temporarily stopped bleeding by freezing wounds from the inside. Inferno Pepper plus Wind Crystal created a Spicy Gale Orb. I did not know what that one would do. I threw it anyway. A tornado made of red pepper powder tore through the Black Halo army. Thousands of soldiers started coughing at once. Even the undead reacted. Apparently, necromancy did not protect the nose. Then Mira grabbed my shoulders. "Kale, give me one." "One what?" "The wind pepper thing." "I only made 3. Give me all 3. That seems unsafe." "I am a wind mage. That is why it seems unsafe." She took them anyway. Mira leaped onto the wall, crushed all 3 orbs between her palms, and cast Cyclone Prison. The spell normally created a controlled spiral of wind. This one created the wrath of every kitchen in the world. A red hurricane swallowed the battlefield. Black Halo soldiers ran in random directions with tears streaming down their faces. The skeletal dragon woke up, inhaled pepper, sneezed more butterflies, and crashed into a siege tower. Vare planted his spear into the ground and surrounded himself with shadow. The storm bent around him. Of course it did. Some people were too dramatic to be defeated by seasoning. He lifted his spear. The black sun above Reedfall expanded. I felt every magic item in my inventory vibrate. Seraphine's face went white. He is opening a grave domain. What does that mean? Everything that dies inside it becomes his. I looked at the undead soldiers. How is that different from what he is already doing? It includes us. Oh. The black sun opened like an eye. The entire town darkened. Shadows rose from every graveyard, cellar, and battlefield trench. Hundreds became thousands. Thousands became tens of thousands. The enemy was multiplying faster than I was. I had millions of weapons, but weapons needed hands. I had 67 guards, 4 adventurers, 1 alchemist, a frightening accountant, and 22,000 dancing mannequins. I needed an army. Then I remembered something stupid I had stored months ago. Golem cores. Low-grade clay golem cores were cheap because they only powered simple labor constructs. Farmers used them to pull plows. Builders used them to carry stone. I had bought 100 because I thought automated warehouse workers sounded useful. They had been multiplying ever since. Golem core, 9,441. 9,000 was not an army, but each core could control a body built from surrounding material. The battlefield was covered in broken wood, shattered armor, stone, metal, and several million mannequins. I took out every core. Seraphine understood before I finished. Oh no. Oh yes, I activated them. 9,000 clay blue lights scattered across the ground. Each core searched for material. They found mannequins. They found siege wreckage. They found shields, doors, broken wagons, pots, barrels, armor, bricks, and 1 statue of Bram. The battlefield assembled itself. A 10-foot golem rose with wagon wheels for shoulders. Another formed from 6 doors and a chimney. One built itself entirely from frying pans. The statue of Bram became the head of a 20-foot wooden giant. Real Bram emerged from the hay cart just in time to see it. He pointed. "Why is there a giant me?" Long story. Why is it better looking? Focus. I linked the cores to my Porter command interface. Originally, the command function was designed to direct summoned pack constructs. Now it controlled an army of junk monsters. I gave one order. Protect Reedfall. 9,000 golems charged. The clash sounded like a city falling downstairs. Wooden fists smashed undead soldiers apart. Pan golems rang like bells every time they were hit. Door golems folded around enemies and trapped them inside themselves. The giant Bram statue punched a siege tower in half. Real Bram stared with tears in his eyes. "I have a son." "That is not your son. He is magnificent." Vare finally stopped walking toward me. He raised both hands. Shadow spears filled the sky. Thousands. I opened my inventory and released reinforced shields above the town. Not dozens. Not hundreds. 80,000. I stacked them like roof tiles across the air. The shadow spears rained down. Metal screamed. Shields shattered layer by layer. I kept replacing them. Ver destroyed 10,000. I released 20,000 more. He destroyed those. I released 30,000. His expression changed. That was the first time I saw fear in his eyes. Not because my items were strong, because he understood the scale. To normal people, resources ran out. Mine grew while I slept. He could destroy 1,000 shields. I would have more tomorrow. He could kill a rare monster to obtain 1 crystal. I could wait a month and own 2. Time itself was on my payroll. Ver suddenly vanished. I felt cold air behind me. Too late. His hand closed around my throat. He had teleported directly onto the wall. Bram swung at him. Ver flicked one finger and sent Bram flying into another hay cart. That man had an unhealthy relationship with hay. Mira attacked. Ver caught her spell and crushed it. Pell disappeared intentionally this time. Seraphine stabbed Ver in the ribs. The dagger bent. Ver looked down at it. Seraphine sighed. That usually works. He blasted her away. Then he tightened his hand around my neck. Your skill was wasted on you, he whispered. I could barely breathe. Maybe. You collect toys while kingdoms decay. True. You hide power that could reshape civilization. Also true. I will use it correctly. I smiled. That confused him, because while he had been giving a villain speech, I had been touching his glove. Inventory. Store. The system rejected him as a living target, but it did not reject the glove. His right gauntlet vanished. Ver blinked. Then his bracer vanished. Then his belt. Then 1 boot. He released my throat. What are you doing? Logistics. His left shoulder armor vanished. Then his cape. Then the decorative skull on his chest. Ver jumped back and covered himself with a shadow barrier. I coughed, rubbing my neck. His equipment was powerful. Very powerful. The inventory appraised each stolen piece. Grave Prince Gauntlet. Legendary. Grave Prince Bracer, legendary. Void Step Boot, legendary. Mantle of Black Halo, mythic. I had just robbed the strongest necromancer in the region by undressing him during combat. Pell reappeared beside me. His eyes were huge. That was beautiful. Thank you. Ver's face twisted with rage. Return them. No, that mantle is an heirloom of my order. Not anymore. It has been passed down for 900 years. Then it was due for a change. You cannot use it. I don't need to. That was the point. He still thought like a fighter. To him, a mythic mantle mattered because of what it could do. To me, a mythic mantle mattered because it could become 2 mantles. Then 4. Then 40. Then 4,000. The system flashed the moment the mantle entered storage. Mythic set component detected. Stored rarity threshold reached. Interest rate increased to 3.1% per day. I laughed. Ver probably thought I was laughing at him. I was actually laughing at the number. 3.1%. Items doubled in roughly 23 days. That was monstrous. Ver's shadow domain flickered. The missing mantle had been anchoring part of his magic. The black sun cracked. His undead army slowed. I saw the opening. Everybody attack the half-dressed necromancer. It was not the most inspiring battle cry. It worked. Mira launched a wind spear. Pell threw 6 knives. Bram crawled from the hay and charged while covered in straw. Seraphine threw something that turned the ground purple. The giant wooden Bram punched from below. Ver blocked all of it. Then Nara hit him with a brick. He did not see that coming. Nobody sees the accountant. The brick struck the back of his head. Ver stumbled. I stored his remaining boot. He fell. The giant Bram caught him in one wooden hand and threw him out of Reedfall. He crashed into his own army. The grave domain shattered. Undead soldiers collapsed. Black Halo survivors fled. The skeletal dragon, still covered in flowers, flew away while sneezing butterflies into the sunrise. Reedfall survived. The town cheered. I did not. I knew Ver was alive. I also knew he would return wearing tighter clothing. The next morning I inspected the items I had stolen. The Mantle of Black Halo alone increased the magical capacity of shadow spells by an absurd amount. More importantly, it counted as a mythic item with 9 centuries of accumulated enchantment. I stored it beside the Dawn Lotus petals and World Tree seeds. Then I waited. 23 days later, the mantle stack crossed 2. I pulled out the duplicate. It was perfect. Same ancient embroidery, same enchantments, same curse protections, same history, somehow. Seraphine touched it and went silent. You understand what this means? She asked. Yes. No, you do not. I usually don't. This mantle was made using extinct void spider silk. No living craftsman can reproduce it. I held up the second one. I can. You are not reproducing it. You are violating scarcity. That sounds profitable. She grabbed my shoulders. Kale, if you can copy completed mythic artifacts, you do not need to gather ingredients forever. You need one finished masterpiece. I stopped joking. She was right. I had been thinking like a merchant buying raw materials. But if one finished legendary sword could become 1,000 legendary swords, why bother collecting enough ore to forge 1,000? I needed the best finished items in existence. I needed relics, national treasures, divine equipment, artifacts locked in dungeons nobody had cleared. That thought should have frightened me. Instead, I asked, "What is the strongest weapon you know?" Seraphine answered immediately. The Sunfall Blade. Bram, who was eating nearby, dropped his spoon. Even I knew that name. The Sunfall Blade was a divine-grade sword used by the first hero to kill the Ash Emperor 600 years ago. After the hero died, the sword was sealed inside the labyrinth of 10,000 doors because nobody else could control its fire. Every kingdom claimed legal ownership. Nobody actually possessed it. The labyrinth had killed hundreds of elite adventurers. The deepest confirmed expedition had reached floor 62. The sword was supposedly on floor 100. I smiled. Nara, without looking up from her ledger, said, "No, I didn't say anything. You smiled." So? That smile costs money. 3 weeks later, we were standing outside the labyrinth of 10,000 doors. Nara came too. She claimed it was because somebody responsible needed to watch the money. I think she wanted to hit dungeon monsters with bricks. The labyrinth entrance was a gigantic stone doorway carved into a cliff. Thousands of adventurers camped nearby, forming an entire temporary city of shops, smithies, healers, gambling tents, and memorial stone sellers. Yes, memorial stone sellers. They offered discounts if you bought before entering. Bram bought one. He asked them to carve Bram the Magnificent, probably betrayed by his porter. I paid extra to change it to Bram the Acceptable. Inside the labyrinth, every floor contained doors. Some led forward, some led backward, some led to traps, some led to monsters, some opened into walls for no reason. The dungeon reshuffled every midnight. Maps were almost useless. Most parties failed because they ran out of supplies before finding the next staircase. We had no supply problem. That made the dungeon unfair in our favor. Floor 1 contained goblins. We ignored them. Floor 2 contained poison fog. I distributed masks. Floor 3 required an offering of 10 gold to open the exit. I paid it. Bram called that cowardly. The door opened. He walked through first. I stole the 10 gold back from the offering bowl. Floor 4 had a bridge over lava. The bridge collapsed. I built another bridge out of stored doors. Pell stared at it. The doors are finally useful. They were always useful. They were furniture. Furniture is just architecture you can move. By floor 20, other adventurers were following us. By floor 30, we had accidentally formed a caravan. By floor 40, we had 112 people behind us because everyone realized the strange merchant in front apparently carried infinite food, water, medicine, rope, ladders, bridges, tents, spare boots, spare armor, cookware, and toilets. Yes, portable toilets. I was prepared. The dungeon started fighting back. Floor 43 flooded with acid. I removed enough stone blocks to build a raised road. Floor 48 released a swarm of metal-eating insects. I dumped 40 tons of sugar syrup into the corridor. The insects got stuck. So did Bram. We left one boot behind. Floor 52 had a riddle door. The stone face asked, "What grows larger the more you take away?" Paul said, "A hole." The door opened. I was annoyed because I had prepared explosives. Floor 59 was a room with 1,000 identical doors. Only one was real. Opening a false door summoned monsters. Everyone began arguing about clues carved into the walls. I opened all 1,000 doors. Monsters filled the room. The real door was number 712. We ran through while the monsters fought each other. Mira shouted, "That is not puzzle solving. It solved the puzzle." On floor 62, we found the remains of the famous expedition that had vanished 20 years earlier. Their equipment was still scattered around a circular chamber. At the center stood a silver knight. Not a corpse, a living man. He looked about 30, but the plaque outside the dungeon named him as Sir Aldrin Marrow, the leader of the lost expedition. He should have been nearly 70. He raised his sword when he saw us. "Do not come closer." We stopped. His eyes were bright silver. Behind him was a huge door made of white bone. "What happened?" I asked. "The labyrinth does not want anyone below this floor." "That seems rude." "This is not a joke. It rarely is when people say that." He explained that the lower floors were not normal dungeon space. The labyrinth was a prison built around something ancient. The Sunfall Blade was not hidden there to keep thieves away. It was acting as a seal. If we removed it, something beneath floor 100 might wake. Bram looked at me. Seraphine looked at me. Nara looked at me. Everybody knew exactly what I was thinking. I raised both hands. I am not saying we remove it permanently. Nara's eye twitched. We borrow it. Seraphine smiled. I like that word. Sir Aldrin did not. He attacked. The man was terrifying. 20 years trapped in the labyrinth had raised him to level 76. His sword moved faster than I could see. He cut Bram's weapon in half, broke Doss's replacement shield, sliced Mira's spell apart, and pinned Pell to a wall by his cloak in less than 5 seconds. Then he came for me. I released 100 shields. He cut through them. 1,000. He kept cutting. 10,000. His expression finally changed. I buried him in shields. He exploded out with silver light. I buried him in doors. He exploded out again. I buried him in mattresses. That worked longer. Sir Aldrin emerged covered in feathers. What kind of warrior are you? He demanded. I'm a porter. He looked genuinely offended. Then the bone door behind him opened. Nobody had touched it. A black hand reached through. Sir Aldrin turned. His face went pale. Run. A creature crawled out. It had too many arms, no eyes, and a mouth running down the center of its chest. Its body was covered in chains inscribed with the same symbol I had seen on Vare's armor, the black halo, except these chains were ancient, older than Vare's order. The creature screamed. Every torch went out. My appraisal returned one line. Prison Warden Echo, level 91. We should have run. Instead, the creature grabbed Sir Aldrin and tore his silver sword away. Then it looked at me without eyes. I felt something inside my inventory move. The mantle of black halo started shaking. The creature wanted it. I suddenly understood. Vare's syndicate had not invented their symbol. They had inherited it from this place. And if Vare knew about my inventory, maybe he was not hunting me only because he wanted my skill. Maybe he wanted me to multiply something for him. The warden lunged. I dumped 1,000,000 arrows. Not fired. Just dumped. A steel avalanche filled the chamber. The warden smashed through it. I dropped 10,000 anvils. Yes, anvils. I had bought a blacksmith supply warehouse after realizing heavy objects made excellent emergency plans. 10,000 anvils fell from above. The dungeon floor ceased being emotionally stable. The warden vanished beneath the impact. A crater opened. Bram leaned over the edge. Did you kill it? A black arm punched through the anvils. No. More anvils? I'm out. Why do you only have 10,000? I never thought I would hear that sentence. Sir Aldrin grabbed my collar. The lower gate. We must reach the lower gate. You just spent 20 years stopping people from doing that. I was wrong. About what? The prison is already opening. The warden erupted from the crater. Sir Aldrin pointed at the bone door. Whatever is happening, it started outside. Someone is breaking seals from the other side. There. It had to be. We ran through the door. The dungeon changed completely. No more puzzle rooms. No more random monsters. The lower floors were one giant vertical ruin descending into darkness. Massive chains crossed open chasms. Ancient towers hung upside down from the ceiling. Rivers flowed through the air. Giant stone faces whispered in languages nobody understood, and far below, buried beneath a mountain of black crystal, something enormous was breathing. The sound shook the entire labyrinth. Once, twice, 3 times. Sir Aldrin whispered, "The Ash Emperor." I thought the Ash Emperor had died 600 years ago. Apparently history had used the word died very creatively. The Sunfall Blade had not killed him. It had sealed him. And I had come here planning to steal that seal because I wanted it to reproduce in my pocket. I felt slightly irresponsible. Only slightly. Because if I could get one copy without removing the original, the seal would remain. That was the perfect crime. I just needed to survive 38 more floors, evade a level 91 nightmare, stop Vare from opening an ancient prison, touch a divine sword, store it long enough for interest to create an extra copy, and somehow leave before the Ash Emperor woke up. Bram cracked his knuckles. Finally, a simple plan? I stared at him. Then the entire dungeon shook again. Far below us, 2 gigantic red eyes opened in the dark. Maybe simple was the wrong word. The red eyes closed again. Nobody moved. I whispered, "Good. Maybe he went back to sleep." The entire ruin shook hard enough to throw Bram onto his back. Sir Aldrin looked down into the darkness. He is waking faster. Then we move faster. There is no mapped route below this point. I opened my inventory. Who needs a route? The ruin descended almost vertically for miles. Ancient bridges connected broken towers. Staircases stopped in empty air. Some platforms rotated slowly around the central shaft like pieces of a machine that had forgotten its purpose. Normal adventurers would have spent days climbing. I took out a wagon. Mira stared at it. No. I attached 800 inflated monster bladders to the wagon. She stared harder. No. I tied 4 enchanted wind sails to the sides. Pell stepped backward. I am with Mira. Bram climbed in immediately. immediately. I call front. There is no front, I said. That was our first warning. The second warning was when Nara sat down, tightened her seatbelt, and quietly updated her will. We pushed the wagon off the ledge. It dropped 50 feet. Everyone screamed except Bram, who shouted something about destiny. Then the monster bladders filled. The wind sails caught the updraft, and our wagon became the worst airship ever created. We sailed downward through the ancient prison at terrifying speed. Floor markers carved into towers flashed past. 63, 68, 71. At floor 74, winged stone demons attacked. I dumped buckets of grease behind us. The grease floated in the wind current and coated their wings. 3 demons crashed into a wall. 1 landed in the wagon. Nara hit it with her ledger. The ledger was now reinforced with an iron spine because Nara had become increasingly practical about combat. At floor 79, a rotating wall of blades blocked the shaft. I stored the blades, not all of them. The trap mechanism was part of the dungeon and resisted storage, but the detachable blade edges counted as items. They vanished one after another until the trap became a rotating wall of harmless metal sticks. Sir Aldrin stared at me. You can steal dungeon traps? Apparently. Do you know how many expeditions died to those blades? No. 311. I looked at the inventory slot. Ancient Execution Blade, 48. Epic grade. Do not say huh. Floor 82 was worse. A giant stone mouth opened in the wall and inhaled. The wind changed direction. Our wagon flew sideways. Mira tried to correct us with magic. The mouth inhaled harder. We accelerated toward rows of stone teeth. I took out 100,000 pillows. Do not ask. The mouth ate the pillows. It kept inhaling. I took out another 100,000. Then another. The entire stone throat jammed with bedding. Its cheeks expanded. The magical suction stopped. Then one feather escaped its nose. The stone face sneezed. The blast launched our wagon downward like a cannonball. We screamed past 7 floors. Bram shouted, "Faster!" I shouted, "This is already too fast." We hit floor 91 sideways. The wagon exploded. Everyone survived because I had filled the inside with mattresses at the last second. Sir Aldrin climbed out of a mattress pile and stared at me. "How do you have so many? They earn interest?" He looked at me like those words had attacked him personally. We did not have time to explain. The prison warden Echo landed behind us. It had followed the entire way by climbing along the outer walls. Its chains whipped through the air. One wrapped around Sir Aldrin's leg. He cut it. 2 more wrapped around Bram. Doss blocked them with a new shield. The shield screamed. I had accidentally given him one of the cursed screaming shields. Doss looked at me. Really? It was dark. Every impact made the shield yell things like, "Ow," and "Stop that." Doss hated it. The rest of us found it motivating. We fought through floor 92 while running. The lower prison guardians were no longer random monsters. They were pieces of the ceiling system itself. Living chains attacked from walls. Stone knights rebuilt themselves after being destroyed. Black flames chased us through tunnels. I started storing anything detachable. Chain links, armor pieces, runic nails, locking stones. At first I did it to clear paths. Then the system began appraising them. Ancient seal chain fragment, legendary. Prison lock rune, legendary. Ashfire brazier core, mythic. Every rare component increased my stored rarity. The interest rate jumped again. 3.6%. 3.9%, 4.2%. I was stealing pieces of a divine prison and getting rewarded for it. Sir Aldrin noticed the corridors trembling. "Stop removing the seals. I'm putting them back." I returned most of the original pieces after passing. The duplicates remained in storage. That was the trick. Touch 1. Store 1. Wait until interest produced excess. Return the original later. The dungeon had spent 600 years protecting priceless sealing artifacts from thieves. It had never prepared for a thief who returned what he stole and kept the interest. On floor 95, we found Vare. He stood before a giant black gate surrounded by hundreds of Black Halo elites. They had entered through another route. Of course there was another route. I had ridden a flying mattress wagon through hell while the criminals apparently used stairs. Vare wore replacement armor. No cape. Both boots were tied tightly around his calves with extra straps. I smiled. He glared at me. Pell whispered, "He learned." Vare raised one hand. His soldiers formed ranks. Behind him, 3 massive ritual crystals pulsed with red light. They were draining energy from the prison seals. Sir Aldrin stepped forward. "Stop this madness. If the Ash Emperor wakes, he will burn half the continent." Vare looked almost offended. We are not waking him. Then what are you doing? Harvesting him. I did not like that sentence. Vare pointed at me. Your inventory is the missing piece. The Ash Emperor possesses the eternal cinder, a divine flame that cannot be extinguished. One flame, one source, one limitation. I understood before he finished. My mouth went dry. You want me to multiply it? Exactly. Why? With 10 eternal cinders, we power 10 immortal furnaces. With 1,000 cities never need fuel. With 1,000,000, winter becomes obsolete. Deserts become farmland. Armies march forever. Nations kneel. For the first time, Vare's plan was not completely stupid. That bothered me more than if he had simply wanted to destroy the world. He really believed he could use my ability to fix civilization. Then he added, naturally, the black halo would control distribution. There it was. I relaxed. Still evil. Much simpler. I pointed at his ritual crystals. You are breaking the prison to extract one flame. The Emperor cannot fully wake without the Sunfall blade being removed. Are you sure? Vare smiled. Yes. The dungeon shook. A crack appeared in the ceiling. Then a gigantic burning hand punched through the floor behind him. Vare looked back. His smile disappeared. I said, you seem less sure. The floor exploded. Ash fire flooded the chamber. Black Halo soldiers scattered. The prison warden Echo crashed through the rear wall and attacked everyone equally, which I respected. Vare fought the warden. Sir Aldrin fought Vare's soldiers. Mira fought burning spirits. Bram fought a door. I am not sure why. The door won. Seraphine dragged him away. I focused on the ritual crystals. They were each mythic grade. I ran toward the first. A black halo knight blocked me. I released 20 anvils above his head. He jumped aside. I released soap under his feet. He fell. Never rely on one joke twice unless the joke works. I touched the first crystal. Store. It resisted. Attached ritual structure. I needed to detach it. So I took out 10 ancient execution blades and threw them at the metal supports. The blades sliced through. The crystal tipped. Store. It vanished. The ritual weakened. The Ash Emperor roared below. Vare screamed, stop him. Everyone tried. I ran toward the second crystal while dumping random obstacles behind me. Tables. Barrels. A statue of Bram. More doors. A flock of rubber training ducks. I had no memory of buying the ducks. There were 12,000. A black halo assassin stepped on one, slipped, and flew into a pillar. I silently thanked past Kale for his irresponsible shopping habits. I stored the second crystal. The ritual collapsed halfway. The third crystal shattered on its own. A column of golden fire erupted from below. Something rose inside it. The Ash Emperor. He was not human anymore. He was a giant made of black armor and living fire. Burning chains wrapped around his arms. His crown had melted into his skull. Every step turned stone to glass. Only his upper body emerged from the prison shaft, and that was already taller than a castle tower. His health display did not show numbers. It showed 3 question marks. I hated question marks. The Emperor opened his mouth. A wave of heat rolled through floor 95. Armor began glowing red. People collapsed. I released every frost salamander scale I had. Tens of thousands spun through the air like blue leaves. The temperature dropped enough for everyone to breathe. The scales burned away by the hundreds. My investment portfolio was literally evaporating. I was furious. Do you know how long those took to grow? I shouted at the ancient fire emperor. He did not apologize. Then the Sunfall blade moved. Far below, a beam of white gold light shot upward. The Emperor's body froze. The prison chains tightened. Sir Aldrin pointed down. The sword is resisting him. Floor 100. Go! How? He looked at the broken floor. Jump. I hate heroic advice. I grabbed everyone close enough to reach. Then we jumped. We fell through the center of the prison while fire and chains exploded around us. I released mattresses below. They burned instantly. More mattresses. Burned. More. Burned. I switched to iron shields. They melted. Stone blocks. They cracked. Then I remembered my world tree. Not the whole tree. Branches. I had pruned the hidden trees and stored thousands of branches because Seraphine wanted to study the wood. World tree wood resisted elemental damage. I released a mountain of branches beneath us. They tangled into a glowing net. We crashed into it. Painful, but alive. Floor 100 was a giant circular platform suspended over an ocean of fire. At the center, the Sunfall blade floated point down inside a pillar of light. It was beautiful. The blade looked like transparent gold. Fire moved inside it like liquid sunrise. The hilt was wrapped in white leather that had not aged in 6 centuries. The moment I saw it, my inventory interface reacted. Divine grade item detected nearby. Even before I touched it, the system knew. Ver landed behind us in a burst of shadow. His armor was cracked. Blood ran down one side of his face. He looked terrible. I felt encouraged. "Do not touch the sword," he said. "I thought you needed it to keep the Emperor sealed." "I do." "Then why are you threatening me?" "Because if your skill copies it, the resonance may destabilize the original." "That sounds like something you invented." "It is not." Sir Aldrin landed nearby and immediately attacked him. They clashed. I ran toward the sword. The closer I got, the hotter the air became. 10 steps away, my clothes smoked. 5 steps away, my boots caught fire. I stored my boots. Mira shouted, "Why are you barefoot?" "Budget cuts." 2 steps away, my health started dropping. I drank healing potions continuously, 1 potion every second, then 10. I could not physically drink 10, so I started pouring them over my head too. Steam covered the platform. I reached out, my fingers touched the hilt. The world vanished. I stood in a white space. A man in golden armor faced me. He looked exactly like every statue of the first hero, Ravian Soul, the hero who defeated the Ash Emperor. He stared at me. "You are not worthy." I nodded. "Correct." He blinked. "You admit it. I'm here to borrow the sword. The Sunfall Blade answers only to one who carries courage, sacrifice, and an unbroken will. I carry snacks. This is not a joke." Everybody keeps saying that. He raised his sword. Golden fire surrounded us. "To wield Sunfall, prove your heart." "I don't need to wield it." His sword lowered slightly. "What?" "I need to store it." The hero's spirit stared at me like I had just invented tax fraud inside a church. "That is not how divine trials work. I have a storage skill. You must defeat my trial." "Can I store the trial?" "No." "Can I store you?" "No." "Can I store the sword while we talk?" "Absolutely not." Outside the vision, I could feel my physical hand gripping the real hilt. The inventory interface appeared even inside the trial. Sunfall Blade. Owner bound divine artifact. Storage permission denied. Of course. There was always paperwork. I looked at Ravian. "What counts as permission?" "You must be acknowledged by the blade." "How?" "Defeat me." He attacked. I had no inventory items in the spiritual space. No weapons, no tricks. Just me. I dodged the first strike. Barely. The second cut my shoulder. The third knocked me across the white floor. Ravian moved like lightning. I could not fight him. So I did what I always did when facing a problem stronger than me. I looked for a rule nobody else cared about. The trial tested courage, sacrifice, and unbroken will, not sword skill. I stood up. Ravian attacked. I did not dodge. His blade stopped 1 inch from my neck. "Why did you stop?" I asked. He frowned. "You surrendered." "No." I accepted the hit. "That is surrender." "Then hit me." He did not. I smiled. The trial could hurt me, but it could not simply execute someone who refused to fight. That would test stupidity, not courage. So I walked forward into his sword. He stepped back. I kept walking. He attacked from the side. I turned toward the blade. He stopped again. "This is absurd." "Yes. You cannot pass a hero's trial by refusing to be heroic." "I am willing to die to keep that emperor sealed." That made him pause. I continued. "I'm also willing to steal your sword, duplicate it, return the original, and use the copies to hit anyone who complains." His face changed from anger to confusion. "I don't know if that helps my case." "It does not. But the important part is that I don't need your power for myself. I need 1 copy. Then 10, then 1,000. Ravian stared. "What do you mean, copies?" I explained my inventory. For the first time in 600 years, the spirit of the greatest hero in history looked terrified. "You can multiply divine artifacts?" "I'm here to find out." "That power is more dangerous than the Emperor." "Probably? You said that too easily. I have had a difficult year." Outside, the prison shook violently. Cracks spread through the white space. Ravian looked upward. Then he made a decision. He lowered his sword. "I will grant temporary recognition." "Great. On 1 condition." "Of course. You will never allow the Sunfall Blade to become a weapon of conquest." I thought about it. "That sounds vague." "It is a sacred vow." "Can I use it to conquer a sandwich?" His eye twitched. "Kale Arden." "That's me." "Swear." I sighed. "I swear I will not use Sunfall copies to conquer nations, or enable someone else to conquer nations." He studied me. "Acceptable." The white space vanished. I returned to the burning platform. Ver and Sir Aldrin were still fighting. Only a second had passed. The Sunfall Blade loosened in its pillar. My inventory message changed. Storage permission granted. Temporary external storage allowed without seal collapse for 60 seconds. I grinned. 60 seconds. My interest rate was only around 4% per day. A minute was useless. Then another message appeared. Divine grade item stored for the first time. Rarity threshold shattered. Interest rate increased to 5.0% per day. Special effect unlocked. Temporal interest advance. I almost laughed. The inventory had given me exactly what I needed. Temporal interest advance allowed me to borrow up to 30 days of future growth instantly. Cost. The selected stack would stop gaining interest for twice the borrowed period. In other words, I could pull future copies forward, then pay for them with frozen growth later. I grabbed Sunfall. Store. The sword vanished. The pillar of light flickered. A countdown appeared. 59 seconds. I selected the Sunfall stack. Quantity. 1. Advance 30 days. The system warned me. Future interest debt 60 days. Confirm? Yes. Quantity surged. 1.05. 1.1, 1.15. Faster. Days of compound interest arrived at once. By day 30, the stack passed 4. Sunfall Blade, 4.3219. My heart stopped. 4. I took out 3 copies. Then I returned 1 sword to the pillar. The countdown stopped at 47 seconds. The prison seal stabilized. Nobody spoke. There were now 3 Sunfall Blades in my hands and 1 still sealing the Ash Emperor. 3 divine swords that had never existed before. Vare stared. Sir Aldrin stared. Mira stared. Bram stared. Nara stared. Seraphine stared hardest. Then Bram slowly raised his hand. Can I have one? No. Why not? You lost your last sword fighting a door. That door cheated. Vare moved first. He lunged for a copy. I stored all 3. He grabbed empty air. I kicked him in the knee. It did nothing physically. Emotionally, I felt better. Then the Ash Emperor roared. The ritual above had weakened the prison too far. Returning Sunfall was not enough. The platform split. Golden fire burst upward. Ravian's voice echoed from the original sword. 3 additional blades can reinforce the seal, I shouted. You could have mentioned that earlier. Place them at the cardinal anchors. There are 4 cardinal directions. The original is the 4th. That was reasonable. I hated when ancient spirits were reasonable. I released 1 Sunfall copy to Mira, 1 to Sir Aldrin, 1 to Bram. Bram looked at me in shock. You trust me? No. You are closest to the west anchor. He looked disappointed. Then all 3 ran. Vare tried to intercept Mira. I released 50,000 cursed boots in his path. He jumped over them. Pell played the flute. The boots activated even without wearers, bouncing and dancing across the ground like possessed rabbits. Vare got kicked in the face by footwear. For once, I did not think my life could become more ridiculous. I was wrong. Bram reached the west anchor and drove Sunfall into the stone. Mira reached the north. Sir Aldrin reached the south. All 4 divine blades ignited. A cross of golden light shot through the prison. The Ash Emperor screamed. Chains wrapped around him. He sank into the depths. The black fire vanished. Silence fell. Then the prison warden Echo climbed onto the platform. We had forgotten about it. It looked at the 4 Sunfall blades, then at me. Then it knelt. I blinked. A new system message appeared. Prison authority recognized. Temporary administrator status granted. I had become an administrator of the Labyrinth of 10,000 Doors. Bram leaned over. What does that mean? I opened the interface. A list appeared. Dungeon door control. Guardian control. Trap control. Supply vault access. Prison treasury access. I froze at the last line. Nara saw it too. Her eyes sharpened. Open that. I obeyed. The treasury inventory loaded. 600 years of offerings, confiscated weapons, failed expedition gear, monster cores, ancient coins, divine crafting scraps, royal donations, and sealed relics appeared in one massive list. My knees became weak. Gold coins, 81,441,902. Mana crystals, 12,300,440. Dragon bone ingots, 8,109. Phoenix feather, 17. Leviathan pearl, 3. Celestial silver, 441. Unknown divine fragment, 1. Nura whispered. We are stealing the dungeon. I corrected her. We are administrating it. Seraphine smiled. I love that word too. Then the system asked whether I wanted to link the prison treasury to my personal inventory for logistical management. I pressed yes before anyone could stop me. My stored rarity value exploded. The interface flashed so brightly I had to close my eyes. Threshold reached. Threshold reached. Threshold reached. Interest rate increased. 5.5%, 6.0%, 6.5%, 7.0% per day. I opened my eyes. At 7% daily growth, items doubled in about 10 days. 10 days. 1 phoenix feather became 2. 10 more days, 4. A month, roughly 8. A year was not wealth anymore. A year was apocalypse. And then the final treasury item caught my attention. Unknown divine fragment, 1. I selected it. A black-red crystal appeared in my hand. The prison warden Echo immediately screamed. The original Sunfall blade flared. Vera's face lost all color. He whispered one word. Heart. Sir Aldrin turned toward him. What? Vera backed away from me. That is not a fragment. I felt heat inside the crystal. A slow pulse, like a heartbeat. Vera looked genuinely afraid. That is a piece of the Ash Emperor's core. I stared at the crystal, then at my inventory, then at the crystal again. One piece of an immortal emperor's heart. Divine grade, able to multiply every 10 days. I should have put it back. I really should have. Instead, my inventory automatically registered it. Ash Emperor core fragment. 1. And somewhere far beneath us, the sealed emperor opened his eyes again. The heartbeat inside the crystal matched the heartbeat beneath the dungeon. Boom, boom, boom. Every time it pulsed, the floor answered. There did something I never expected. He ran away. Not tactically retreated. Not vanished into shadow while delivering a threat. He turned around and sprinted. That terrified me more than the ancient emperor. I shoved the core fragment back into my inventory. The heartbeat stopped. Far below, the Ash Emperor became quiet again. Everyone stared at me. I said, so we agree I should not take that out casually. Sir Aldrin grabbed me by the shirt. You should destroy it. Seraphine grabbed his wrist. No. Woman. That is the heart of a world-ending tyrant. It is a fragment of the heart. That does not improve the sentence. I opened the appraisal details. The fragment contained an incredible amount of compressed fire authority. It could power cities, forge divine weapons, regenerate destroyed flesh, and apparently serve as an anchor for the Ash Emperor's soul. Very useful. Very dangerous. Exactly the kind of thing my inventory loved. I should have destroyed it. Instead, I placed 3 sealing chains around its inventory slot using the new dungeon administration controls. That was the compromise. Nara called it putting a blanket over a volcano. I called it risk management. We spent 2 days stabilizing the dungeon. With administrator access, I reset traps, repaired seals, and redirected the surviving guardians away from adventurer routes. I also discovered the dungeon generated treasure naturally from absorbed mana. Slowly. Very slowly. Normally it produced 1 high-grade item every few months. Linked to my inventory, those items earned 7% per day. The dungeon had become a farm. A legendary farm with murderous doors. I appointed Sir Aldrin as resident administrator because he had already lived there for 20 years and clearly had no hobbies. He objected. Then I showed him he could control every door. He spent 6 straight hours opening and closing floor 59 just to watch confused adventurers argue. He accepted the position. The 3 copied Sunfall blades had to remain in the dungeon to reinforce the seal. That hurt. I had held 3 divine swords for less than an hour and already felt emotionally attached to the resale value. But the original Sunfall stack was frozen under 60 days of interest debt anyway, so I could not produce more immediately. We returned to the surface. The camp outside had become chaos. Thousands of people had seen 4 beams of divine light erupt from the mountain. Rumors moved faster than we did. By the time I walked out, people were already saying the first hero had resurrected. Then someone recognized Bram holding the temporary hilt imprint left by Sunfall. Within 10 minutes, the rumor changed. Bram had become the second hero. I tried to correct them. Bram stopped me. Do not interfere with history. You fought a door. The public does not need every detail. He climbed onto a barrel and began waving. People cheered. I let him enjoy it because the attention stayed off me. That lasted 4 minutes. Then an adventurer shouted, "That's Kale Arden." Silence. Another shouted, "The warehouse merchant?" Someone else yelled, "The Reedfall lunatic." A third person yelled, "He dropped 3 million mannequins on an army." I still do not know how that rumor traveled so fast. Then the Royal Knights arrived. So did 3 guild envoys. Then 2 church representatives. Then a dwarven trade delegation. Then a dragon wearing spectacles. I wish I were joking. The dragon landed beside the camp, transformed into an elderly man in a green suit, adjusted his glasses, and handed Nara a business card. His name was Voradrax. Occupation, Senior Acquisition Director, Golden Scale Consortium. Dragons had a corporation. Of course they did. He wanted a meeting. Everybody wanted a meeting. I wanted lunch. Nara made me attend the meetings. The royal envoy demanded to know whether I had stolen a national relic. I said no. Technically, I had temporarily stored it and returned it. The church asked whether the 4 sunfall signatures meant a miracle had occurred. I said probably. The guild asked how we reached floor 100. I said doors. The dwarves wanted to buy ancient prison metal. I said maybe. Voradrax waited until everyone else left. Then he placed a red scale on the table. My inventory almost opened itself. Dragon scale. Not wyvern. True dragon. Mythic grade. He tapped it with one fingernail. I hear you appreciate scarce assets. I tried not to drool. What do you want? A partnership. Everybody wants that. Everybody else has boring assets. He was right. Voradrax explained the Golden Scale Consortium managed dragon hordes across the continent. Dragons loved treasure, but treasure had a problem. It did not grow. A dragon could spend 5 centuries building a hoard and still own exactly the same number of gold bars it had yesterday. My power offended them spiritually. It also fascinated them financially. You store 1 dragon scale, Voradrax said. It becomes 2. We split the excess. What do I get besides half a scale? Access. To what? He smiled. Dragon vaults. Nara kicked me under the table before I agreed too fast. We negotiated for 12 hours. I got custody of selected rare assets, 40% of generated excess, protection from 3 dragon clans, and exclusive purchasing rights on discarded dragon materials. The consortium got 60% of generated excess and a promise that I would not flood markets with dragon goods. Then Voradrax added one final item to the deal. A dragon egg. Not just any egg. A royal storm dragon egg that had failed to hatch for 300 years. The egg was considered dead, which meant the dragons were willing to let me store it. The moment it entered my inventory, lightning crawled across the interface. Storm dragon royal egg. 1. Mythic grade. Dormant life detected. Interest compatible. I nearly shouted. 1 dead-looking egg could become 2, then 4, then 8. Even if 99% failed to hatch, eventually one might succeed. Voradrax apparently had the same thought. Do not attempt to hatch any duplicates without consortium supervision. Of course. I meant it at the time. That is important. I genuinely meant it. 10 days later, the egg quantity passed 2. The duplicate appeared automatically as a whole egg in storage. 1 original. 1 new. I removed the new egg in our hidden valley, not to hatch it, just to inspect it. The egg cracked. I stared. Seraphine stared. Mira stared. A tiny blue snout pushed through the shell. I whispered, "That seems inconvenient." The egg exploded. A baby dragon the size of a dog burst out, sneezed lightning, and destroyed my shoes. I had just hatched a royal storm dragon without permission. The baby looked at me. I looked at it, it bit my hand. Then it swallowed one of my inventory rings. I shouted. The dragon hiccuped. A storage interface appeared above its head. Everyone went silent. The baby had somehow absorbed a fragment of my inventory skill. Its status displayed a new trait, Hoard Pocket. Interest rate 0.1% per day. I stared in horror. Seraphine slowly smiled. Kyle, no. It inherited your ability. No. This is fascinating. No experiments. The baby sneezed lightning again and set Bram's new memorial stone on fire. Bram fell to his knees. My legacy. The dragon ate a piece of the stone. I named it Dividend. Nara hated the name. Dividend loved coins. He swallowed them whenever he could, then stored them inside his hoard pocket. At first his interest rate was tiny, but the idea of a creature naturally earning interest on its treasure made Voradrax nearly faint when he found out. Yes, he found out. Dividend escaped the valley 3 days later by flying directly through an illusion barrier he was too young to understand. He landed in Reed Falls Market, stole a roast chicken, shocked the mayor, and climbed onto the statue in the central square. By sunset, every dragon clan on the continent knew. Voradrax arrived furious. Then Dividend coughed up an extra gold coin. Voradrax stopped being furious. He adjusted his glasses. May I hold him? Dividend bit him. Voradrax smiled through the pain. He is perfect. The consortium changed our contract. They now wanted to fund dragon egg replication research. I refused to become a dragon factory. Then they offered me access to the Vault of First Fire. I reconsidered. Nara kicked me. I refused again. We compromised on controlled research with non-sentient eggs only, which did not make biological sense but sounded responsible enough for the contract. Meanwhile, my wealth became impossible to hide. 7% daily growth was not a business advantage anymore. It was a natural disaster. My potion stack crossed 1 billion, then 2 billion, then 4. Even if I sold only 1,000th of my stock, local markets could not absorb it. Prices crashed wherever Arden Logistics operated. Healing potion makers protested. Arrow Fletchers protested. Iron miners protested. One group of candle makers surrounded my warehouse because I had accidentally sold too many consecrated candles and cut prices by 80%. Their protest signs said, Stop infinite candles. I understood their concern. My power could destroy livelihoods simply by supplying too much. So I changed strategy again. I stopped selling cheap goods. Instead, I used them. I offered free healing potions to adventurer guilds in exchange for rare monster materials. I supplied frontier towns with arrows in exchange for first rights to dungeon drops. I gave farmers tools in exchange for unusual seeds. I gave hospitals medicine in exchange for access to strange magical conditions Seraphine wanted to study. Nira built a trade network where common abundance flowed outward and rare objects flowed toward me. My inventory became a river running uphill. Millions of cheap items left. Single priceless items entered. The system loved it. Interest rate climbed to 7.4%, then 7.8%, then 8%. At 8% per day, quantities doubled in about 9 days. 9 days. The world tree seeds exploded in number. The phoenix feathers multiplied. The dragon bone multiplied. The mythic mantle multiplied. Even the Ash Emperor heart fragment multiplied. That one became a problem. The first time the stack reached 2, both fragments started beating inside storage. Boom. Boom. The inventory temperature rose. A system warning appeared. Identical soul-bearing divine fragments are attempting resonance. Risk of consciousness reconstruction. I nearly threw the inventory into a lake before remembering the inventory was part of my soul. Seraphine read the warning. That means if enough fragments accumulate, the Ash Emperor may rebuild his mind inside your storage. I stared at her. That is bad. Yes, how bad? You would become the landlord of an immortal tyrant. I immediately removed one duplicate fragment into a sealed dungeon vault and left the original in inventory. The resonance stopped. Problem solved for 9 days. Then the inventory created another. I removed it too. 9 days later, another. Soon I had a growing collection of world-ending heart fragments stored in separate fortified vaults. Nara created a ledger category called Do Not Touch. It became our largest security budget. Then a kingdom asked for one. The kingdom of Halcyon had learned I possessed ashfire material. They offered 20 million gold for a core fragment. I refused. They offered a fortress. I refused. They offered a noble title. I refused. They offered a coastal province. I paused. Nara kicked me. I refused. 3 weeks later, someone stole one. Not from my inventory. From a sealed vault. The thief bypassed dragon guards, poison wards, stone golems, illusion fields, and a door I had personally labeled definitely nothing valuable here. Only one person knew exactly which vault contained a fragment. Seraphine. I went to her laboratory. Empty. Her notes were gone. Her clothes were gone. Her pet venomous frog was gone. On the table she had left one message. I unfolded it. Kale, do not follow me. That was all. Naturally, I followed her. Nara called this predictable. The trail led south into the kingdom of Halcyon. Dividend came with me by hiding inside a barrel. I discovered him after crossing the border when the barrel started eating coins. Bram, Mira, Doss, and Pell came too. Bram said he wanted adventure. Mira said she wanted to stop Bram from dying. Doss said he owed me for saving his life. Pell said Halcyon had excellent pockets. We entered the capital disguised as traveling cheese merchants. This disguise lasted exactly 20 minutes because Dividend ate half the cheese. Halcyon City was preparing for war. Soldiers filled the streets. Weapon shipments moved toward the palace. Giant mana cannons had been installed on the walls. Their enemy was the Karth Dominion across the southern desert. The two nations had fought border wars for generations, but this time Halcyon planned something different. I discovered what when we broke into the royal foundry. Yes, broke in. I had become much more comfortable with crimes since meeting Seraphine. Inside the foundry, 100 royal mages stood around a gigantic furnace. At its center floated my stolen Ash Emperor core fragment. They had connected it to the city's mana network. The furnace was producing weapons. Not normal weapons. Ashfire rifles. Thousands of them. Each rifle fired a bolt hot enough to melt steel armor. The fragment powered the entire production line without weakening. I finally understood why Halcyon wanted it. One fragment was an infinite military fuel source, and because I had created the duplicate, their spies considered it disposable. Seraphine stood beside the furnace. I almost shouted her name. Then I saw the collar around her neck. Black metal. Runes. Slave seal. She had not stolen the fragment willingly. She had been forced. A man in white royal armor stepped onto the platform. King Orlin of Halcyon. He was younger than I expected, maybe 35, with clean blonde hair and the calm face of someone who had never been punched enough. The merchant has arrived, he said. I froze. He was looking directly at the shadow where I was hiding. Kale Arden, he continued. You may come out, Bram whispered. Our disguise failed. We are not wearing the cheese hats anymore. We should have kept the cheese hats. I stepped into the open. Royal guards surrounded us. King Orlan smiled. I apologize for borrowing your alchemist. I looked at Seraphine. She looked furious. That word is getting abused, I said. Orlan spread his hands. I need your skill, not permanently. Just for 1 month. That is not how it works. We know more about your power than you think. A scholar rolled out a chalkboard covered in calculations. My blood ran cold. They had estimated my compounding rate from observed market supply. Not perfectly, but close. They knew rare items doubled in days, not months. They knew I could copy finished artifacts. They knew about the Sunfall blades. They knew almost everything except fusion and temporal advance. Orlan pointed to the Ashfire rifles. Store 1 rifle. In 1 month, give me 10. I almost laughed. At my rate, 1 would become much more than 10. He did not know how broken the growth had become. Why? To end the war. By giving your army unstoppable weapons. By making resistance impossible. That is called conquest. History calls it peace after the winner writes enough books. I did not like him. He gestured toward Seraphine. The slave collar tightened. She dropped to 1 knee. My hands curled into fists. Orlan's smile disappeared. Store the rifle. I looked at the weapon on the table, then at my inventory, then at the core fragment powering the furnace. I needed to solve 3 problems. Free Seraphine, recover the divine fragment, stop a kingdom from mass-producing superweapons. Fortunately, Orlan had made 1 mistake. He brought me into a room full of items. I touched the rifle. Fine, I said. Then I stored the entire foundry, not the building. I wish I could store buildings that easily, but everything inside the building that was not nailed down vanished at once. Rifles, tools, mana crystals, weapon racks, crates, chairs, tables, the king's presentation chalkboard, 1 royal guard's lunch, and, most importantly, the metal platform holding the Ash Emperor fragment. The platform vanished. The fragment dropped. I caught it. Store, gone. King Orlan stared at the empty foundry. Nobody moved. Then 1 guard whispered, "My sandwich." That broke the silence. Orlan shouted, "Seize him!" I opened my inventory and returned every chair at head height. 30 chairs appeared in midair. Royal guards met furniture. Chaos. Bram drew his sword. Mira fired wind blades. Das rammed 2 guards into a wall. Pell stole the king's belt. I have no idea why. King Orlan's trousers survived because royal tailoring apparently included backup straps. Seraphine grabbed the slave collar and shouted, "The control rune is linked to the king." I looked at Orlan. Inventory. Store belt buckle. Store ring. Store glove. Store crown. His crown vanished. The slave collar flickered. Wrong item. Orlan launched a white flame spell at me. I released a wall of iron shields. The flame burned through 6 layers. Strong king. Annoying king. I kept storing accessories. His necklace vanished. No effect. His left boot vanished. No effect. His ceremonial shoulder chain vanished. No effect. Then I saw a tiny black gem embedded in his sword pommel. Pell saw it too. He moved first. 1 second Orlan held the sword. The next, Pell had removed the gem with a thief skill and replaced it with a grape. The slave collar opened. Seraphine tore it off. Orlan looked at the grape in his sword. Pell bowed. Presentation matters. Seraphine threw 3 needles. They hit Orlan in the neck. He froze. "What did you poison me with?" he demanded. "Nothing." His face relaxed slightly. "Those needles contained a muscle relaxant, a truth serum, and something I made from salamander saliva." His face became less relaxed. "What does the saliva do?" "I do not know yet." Orlan started hiccuping sparks. Seraphine took out a notebook. "Interesting. We escaped through the foundry roof using Dividend." I say using Dividend because by then he had grown to the size of a horse. Royal storm dragons grew very fast when fed enchanted meat. They grew even faster when the enchanted meat duplicated inside their own hoard pocket and they ate continuously. Dividend was essentially compounding his lunch into body mass. We climbed onto his back. He flew straight through the roof instead of using the open window. Again, he was young. Royal mages chased us on flying platforms. I released 2,000 giant purple hats into the sky. At last, the hats had found their purpose. They covered the mages' faces, clogged flying runes, tangled in propellers, and turned the air pursuit into a fashion disaster. 1 mage kept chasing us while wearing a purple hat by accident. I respected his commitment. Mira blasted him off his platform. We escaped Halcyon City, but the war had already started. Orlan had produced more than 20,000 Ashfire rifles before I arrived. His army crossed the southern desert 2 days later. Karth's frontier fortress fell in 3 hours. A second fortress fell before sunset. Normal shields could not stop Ashfire. Stone walls melted. Armored cavalry became useless. The Karth Dominion sent messengers begging every neighboring kingdom for aid. Then both sides contacted me. Halcyon demanded I return the core fragment and help them finish the conflict quickly. Karth offered me a palace, 2 islands, and a yearly festival in my honor if I gave them something stronger than Ashfire rifles. I said no to both. Then refugees started arriving in Reedfall. Thousands. Families with burned wagons. Soldiers missing limbs. Children who had walked across the desert for days. That changed the problem. It was not about kings anymore. I could stay neutral and watch ordinary people get melted by a weapon powered by an item that existed because of me. So I made a decision. I would not help Karth conquer Halcyon. I would make Halcyon's super weapon useless. Seraphine and I studied the stored Ashfire rifle. Its bolts were condensed divine flame wrapped in a directional mana shell. The flame was almost impossible to stop, but the shell was not. Break the shell, and the flame dispersed harmlessly upward. We needed a shield tuned to the rifle's exact mana frequency. Normally that would take months and rare materials. We had copies of the rifle. We had mythic materials. We had fusion. We had no patience. Perfect. I fused 1 Ashfire rifle with a cursed mirror shard. Failure. The result was a gun that fired backward. Bram wanted it. I refused. We fused a rifle bolt with frost salamander scale. Failure. It created a small ice cube that screamed when heated. Seraphine kept it for reasons I did not ask about. We fused Ashfire residue with world tree bark. Success. The bark absorbed the divine flame without burning. Then we fused that bark with reinforced shield frames. The result was a sunshade shield. Rare grade, not legendary. Ugly, heavy, but it could disperse Ashfire shots. 1 shield. I stored it. At 8% daily interest, we did not have enough time to wait for thousands, so I used temporal advance. 30 future days. The stack jumped from 1 to around 10. Not enough. Then I remembered something I had overlooked. Temporal advance was per stack. What counted as a stack depended on item identity. If I made small, harmless variations, the inventory treated each variation as a separate stack. Seraphine painted 1 shield red. New stack. Mira scratched a line into another. New stack. Bram signed 1 with his name. Nobody wanted that stack, but it counted. We created 100 distinct shield variants. Different grips. Different emblems. Different trims. 1 had a cup holder. That was Doss's favorite. Each became its own inventory stack. Each could borrow 30 days of future interest independently. 100 prototypes became roughly 1,000 shields instantly. Then I duplicated the variation process. Pell carved numbers. Mira stamped warehouse codes. We created 1,000 stacks. Advance. 10,000 shields. The system warned me that I was accumulating an irresponsible amount of interest debt. I agreed. Then I did it again. By the time Halcyon's army reached Karth's capital plain, I had over 100,000 sunshade shields. I gave them away. Not just to Karth, to civilians, neutral guilds, foreign observers. Even Halcyon deserters. Within a day, Ashfire rifles stopped being unstoppable. Halcyon soldiers fired. Sunshade shields flashed green and redirected the flame into the sky. The battlefield filled with harmless pillars of fire. It looked dramatic. It accomplished almost nothing. Orlan was furious. He ordered his mages to modify the rifles, so I released the shield recipe publicly. Blacksmiths across the continent began making their own versions. That was more dangerous to my business than giving away shields, but it mattered. I finally understood one weakness of relying only on my inventory. If every solution came from me, then everyone became dependent on me. That was exactly the world Vaer wanted, except he wanted to stand at the center. I did not. Mostly because being at the center sounded exhausting. Halcyon's advance stopped. Then Orlan did something desperate. He activated all 20,000 rifles at once and connected them to a captured fire ley line. The rifles transformed into one gigantic ritual cannon aimed at Karth's capital. I saw it from Dividend's back 5 miles away. A red circle covered half the sky. Seraphine whispered, "That will erase the city." Karth's capital held 2 million people. I could not make enough shields to cover everyone. I needed to stop the cannon before it fired. Dividend flew faster. Halcyon wyvern riders intercepted us. Bram jumped onto the first wyvern. He immediately fell off. I stored his belt and pulled him into inventory range using the attached rope. He swung beneath Dividend, screaming. Mira blasted riders away. Pell somehow landed on an enemy saddle and stole the wyvern. Das used 2 sunshade shields like wings. They did not work as wings. He fell. Dividend caught him. We reached the ritual cannon. Thousands of Halcyon soldiers surrounded it. Orlan stood at the center, his royal armor connected to the ley line. He had recovered from Seraphine's needles. Mostly, he still hiccuped sparks. "You did this," he shouted when he saw me. "I made the original fragment, yes. You armed my enemies. I gave them shields. You destroyed peace. You invaded them. Details." He triggered the cannon. The red circle compressed. 10 seconds. I opened my inventory. I could dump objects on the machine, but it was protected by barriers. I could use Sunfall, but the stack was still paying interest debt. I could use the Ash Emperor fragment, but bringing multiple heart pieces near this much fire sounded like a terrible idea. 9 seconds. Dividend roared. His hoard pocket opened. A pile of coins spilled out. I looked at him, then at the cannon, then at one of the coins. Dragon Hoard Gold. Because Dividend had stored the coins personally, they had absorbed Trace Storm Authority, Lightning Mana. Thousands of coins. The cannon ran on precise fire mana synchronization. Lightning would not overpower it, but maybe it did not need to. 8 seconds. I grabbed Dividend's face. "Can you dump your whole hoard into that spell circle?" He licked me. I took that as yes. 7 seconds. Dividend flew directly over the cannon. 6. He opened his hoard pocket. 5. Millions of electrically charged gold coins poured out of the sky. 4. They hit the ritual circle. At first, nothing happened. 3. Then the coins connected runes that were never supposed to touch. Lightning jumped between them. 2. The ritual circuit shorted. Every Ashfire rifle fired sideways. 1. The cannon exploded, not outward, upward. A pillar of red fire launched into the clouds and punched a hole through a floating island nobody knew was there. The island broke in half. Ancient ruins fell from the sky. Everyone on the battlefield stopped fighting to look up. I looked at Seraphine. She looked at me. Did we know that was there? No. The largest piece of floating ruin crashed into the desert 3 miles away. A shockwave knocked soldiers off their feet. When the dust cleared, a black stone tower stood tilted in the sand. Its door opened. A tiny old man walked out. He looked at the battlefield, then at the burning sky, then at me on Dividend's back. He raised one staff. "Which one of you idiots shot my island?" Every soldier pointed at me. Traitors. The old man turned out to be Archmage Tessel, who had been missing for 180 years. He had hidden his research tower above the clouds to avoid taxes. I respected him immediately. He ended the battle by freezing both armies from the neck down, not killing them, just freezing their boots, legs, wagons, cannons, and horses to the ground with one spell. Then he demanded breakfast. We negotiated a ceasefire over pancakes. King Orlan did not enjoy the pancakes. He enjoyed the terms even less. Halcyon withdrew. Karth agreed not to invade in return. The Ashfire rifles were confiscated and sealed. Orlan remained king, mostly because removing him would create a civil war, but he was forced to accept an international council supervising divine weapons. He hated me. I considered that a successful outcome. Archmage Tessel came to Reedfall afterward. He had 180 years of magical research in his tower. More importantly, he had rare items. Very rare items. He showed me a pocket watch made from chrono silver. Mythic grade. It could slow time inside a small field. I stared at it. He noticed. No, I didn't ask. You have the eyes of a raccoon in a jewelry store. I just want to store it for 10 days. No, I can give you 2 afterward. He paused. That was my favorite pause. The pause where scarcity lost an argument. 10 days later, Tessel owned 2 chrono silver watches. I owned 1 extra. The mythic item pushed my rarity threshold again. Interest rate, 8.5%. Then Tessel had an idea. A dangerous idea. "What happens," he asked, "if we slow time outside your inventory?" I don't understand. Your inventory calculates interest according to the world's day cycle, yes? So far, and items inside experience no normal passage of time. Yes. So the interest is not caused by internal time. It is caused by an external system clock. I slowly realized where he was going. If we speed up the system's perception of days, Tessel smiled. Nara stood up. No, neither of us listened. We built a temporal chamber around me using 12 chrono silver watch copies, mana crystals, dungeon runes, and 1 phoenix feather because Tessel said time magic liked phoenixes. I asked why. He said rebirth symbolism. Magic is sometimes annoyingly poetic. The chamber activated. Outside 1 minute passed. Inside the field I experienced 1 minute too. Nothing happened. Then the inventory flashed. Daily interest applied. I froze. Another minute. Daily interest applied. My mouth opened. Tessel started laughing. The chamber was tricking the inventory's external clock. 1 day of interest every minute. 8.5%. Every minute. This was no longer a cheat. This was a crime against mathematics. We ran the chamber for 10 minutes. Stacks more than doubled. 20 minutes. They multiplied several times. 30 minutes. My interface began lagging. Then a warning appeared. Temporal anomaly detected. Interest authority under review. Tessel stopped laughing. I said, "What is under review mean?" A new message appeared. External administrator attention detected. That was worse. I shut the chamber down. Too late. The sky above Reedfall turned gold. A gigantic transparent window appeared over the entire town. Not my personal interface. Everyone could see this one. System violation investigation initiated. Subject Cale Arden. Possible abuse. Unauthorized compounding acceleration. Bram looked up from the street. You got audited by reality. Nara covered her face. I knew accounting would find us eventually. Then a second line appeared. Penalty pending. Audit agent descending. The clouds opened. Something fell from the sky. It hit the center of Reedfall hard enough to create a crater. A woman stood up from the dust. White suit, golden glasses, silver hair. She held a clipboard. Not a sword, not a staff. A clipboard. My appraisal failed completely. She adjusted her glasses and looked directly at me. Cale Arden? I raised one hand. She checked a box. Inventory account holder number 0713. You are suspected of exploiting a temporal loophole to generate unauthorized returns. I swallowed. Is that illegal? She looked at the mountain of multiplied items registered to my soul. Then she looked back at me. We are going to have a very long conversation. The woman with the clipboard introduced herself as Auditor 9. Not 9 as a family name, just 9. Apparently there were at least 8 others. That information made me uncomfortable. She ordered everyone out of the town hall, sat across from me at a wooden table, and opened a stack of glowing forms that appeared from nowhere. Nara refused to leave. Auditor 9 looked at her. Private account review. Nara folded her arms. I am his accountant. 9 paused. Then she pulled out another chair. Accepted. I had never seen anyone defeat a supernatural being so quickly. The audit began. 9 asked when I discovered the interest effect. I told her about the bread. She asked whether I had intentionally manipulated stack identity. I told her about the shield variants. She wrote for a long time. She asked whether I had performed temporal acceleration. I pointed at Tessel. He was watching through the window. He ducked. Coward. She asked whether I had duplicated soul-bearing divine objects. I remained silent. Nara kicked my ankle. I admitted the Ash Emperor fragment. 9 stopped writing. Her expression finally changed. You duplicated what? The heart fragment of an immortal fire emperor. How many? Depends what you mean by have. Her eyes narrowed. How many? Several. Nara kicked me harder. Fine. Around 12. 9 lowered the clipboard. Why? I didn't ask the inventory to do it. It earns interest automatically. You could remove the item. It is divine grade. That is not an answer. It is to me. She rubbed her forehead. For the first time, I realized system auditors could experience regret. Then she said something that changed everything I thought I knew about my skill. Inventory interest was never meant for a combat world. I stared. What? It is a merchant class authority designed for closed celestial markets. Nara leaned forward. 9 explained that somewhere beyond our world existed a network of systems used by gods, spirits, dungeon administrators, and dimensional merchants. Skills were not created randomly. They were pieces of larger authorities, distributed through awakening systems according to compatibility. My inventory was one fragment of something called the Treasury Authority. The 1% interest effect was supposed to reward long-term storage in realms where divine merchants lived for thousands of years. On a normal mortal timescale, it was considered modest. I laughed. 9 did not. Then I stopped laughing. Wait, 1% per day is modest? For beings who measure transactions in centuries. That makes no mathematical sense. It is not real interest. What? The authority does not create value from nothing. It draws equivalent item templates from possibility branches that failed to manifest. I stared at her. Nara stared at her. Explain that using poor people words, I said. 9 sighed. If somewhere in possibility there could have been another potion, your skill takes that unrealized potion and makes it real. So I steal from alternate reality? No. Borrow? No. Administrate? Seraphine, listening outside the door, whispered. Good word. 9 pointed at the wall. Leave. Seraphine vanished from view. 9 continued. The authority is safe when used slowly. The possibility field repairs itself. Your temporal chamber forced thousands of extraction cycles into minutes. That sounded bad. How bad? You created a local possibility deficit. I had no idea what that meant. Then Reedfall's baker burst through the door. Kale! 9 looked annoyed. The baker held a loaf of bread, except the loaf was transparent. What is wrong with my bread? He screamed. I touched it. My hand passed through. 9 closed her eyes. Possibility deficit. Throughout Reedfall, random objects began failing to fully exist. A chair disappeared when someone sat on it. A horse duplicated its tail but temporarily lost one front leg. A fountain started flowing upward. Every egg in one chicken coop became square. A man sneezed and briefly turned into his own brother. The temporal chamber had damaged the local rules of probability. I felt terrible. The square eggs were impressive, though. 9 said the deficit would stabilize naturally within days if I stopped abusing time acceleration. Then she added the punishment. Your account will be rate locked at 1% until review is complete. My chair scraped backward. 1%? Yes, that is poverty. Nara slapped me. It is still infinite compounding. I got used to 8.5. 9 raised the clipboard. A golden seal formed over my inventory interface. Interest rate changed 1.0%. I felt physically ill. My rare items crawled now. 10,000 potions generated only 100 per day. One legendary relic would take around 70 days to double. How had I ever lived like this? Then 9 froze. Her eyes shifted toward the window. The golden sky had turned black. Ver stood on a rooftop across the plaza. Of course, he chose the worst possible moment to return. He wore new black armor, a new mantle, and boots with so many straps they looked personally offended by me. Behind him floated 12 shadow portals. 9 stood. This audit area is under celestial protection. Ver smiled. I know. Black chains shot from the portals. They did not target me. They targeted her. 9 raised one hand. Golden symbols formed a shield. The chains struck. The entire town shook. Her face changed. Those are administrator chains. Ver bowed. Borrowed. Seraphine yelled from outside. That word is ours. The chains wrapped around 9's arms. More portals opened. Black halo mages appeared on rooftops across Reedfall. They had not come for my inventory this time. They had come for the auditor. I understood why when Ver tore the clipboard from her hand. The moment he touched it, a system window appeared. Administrator credential detected. Temporary permission conflict. Ver laughed. 9's eyes widened. Do not let him access your account. Too late. Ver pointed the clipboard at me. A command appeared across my vision. Transfer inventory interest authority? My blood went cold. He had found a way to steal the skill without removing my soul. The confirmation button started moving by itself. I fought it mentally. Ver's chains tightened around 9. She shouted, your ownership claim is based on continuous possession. Break the possession state. What does that mean? Stop owning the inventory. How? I do not know. Mortals are not supposed to have this problem. Great. The transfer bar climbed. 10%. 20. 30. I tried storing the clipboard from across the plaza. Too far. I released arrows. Black halo barriers stopped them. Mira attacked the mages. Bram charged Ver. He was immediately launched through a bakery window. Again, that man was becoming predictable. Dividend dove from the clouds and breathed lightning. Ver blocked it. 40%. I needed to stop owning my inventory. The phrase sounded impossible. The inventory was soul-bound. Then I remembered Dividend. He had created a hoard pocket by swallowing one of my inventory rings. A fragment of my authority could exist in another creature. Could the whole thing? Probably not, but I did not need permanently. I needed to break continuous possession for 1 second. I grabbed Dividend by the horns as he passed. He looked offended. Open your hoard. He opened his mouth. That was not exactly what I meant, but good enough. I touched his forehead and selected authority transfer. The system screamed warnings. Pet target incompatible. Partial authority transfer may cause mutations. Risk of item loss. Risk of soul damage. Risk of tax complications. I stopped reading at tax complications. 58%. Transfer temporary custody. The inventory vanished from my vision. For one horrifying second, I felt empty. Then Dividend's eyes turned gold. A gigantic inventory window opened behind him. Ver's transfer bar reset to 0. His smile disappeared. What did you do? I grinned. I gave my portfolio to a dragon. Dividend roared. Every stored item was now under the instinctive control of a 6-month-old storm dragon. I immediately realized a flaw in the plan. Dividend loved throwing things. His inventory opened. Objects began raining over Reedfall. Spoons, shields, shoes, moonsteel, fish eggs, potions, doors. Millions of doors. I screamed, Not the doors. Dividend was having the best day of his life. Vare was buried under household supplies. 9 disappeared beneath a pile of pillows. Black Halo mages were hit by frying pans. 1 world tree seed landed in the mayor's soup. I chased Dividend across the square while he flew in circles, vomiting inventory items into reality. Give it back, he chirped. Now, he released 300 bathtubs. Reedfall had never contained that many bathtubs. Now it did. The temporary custody system had no obvious cancel button because I was no longer the account owner. Nara grabbed my shirt. How do you undo this? I'm working on it. You gave infinity to a lizard. He is a royal dragon. Dividend dropped a lighthouse. Everyone stared. I stared hardest. I do not remember owning that. The lighthouse crushed a Black Halo siege construct. Useful. Dividend continued. Vare blasted himself out of the door pile and flew toward the dragon. He had the same idea I did. If he could steal the authority from Dividend, he won. 9 emerged from the pillows and shouted, "The dragon must voluntarily return custody." I looked at Dividend. He looked at me. Buddy. He tilted his head. Please give me the inventory. He turned away. Betrayal. I pulled out his favorite treat, then remembered the treats were inside his inventory now. Vare got closer. I panicked. Dividend, if you give it back, I will give you 10,000 gold coins. He stopped midair. His head turned slowly. Dragons understand finance from birth. 20,000. He flew toward me. 30. He slammed his forehead into mine. The inventory returned. I fell backward. Every item still in midair stayed in midair. Gravity remembered itself. Reedfall experienced furniture rain. Vare was hit by a lighthouse window. I regained control. The transfer attack had failed, but 9's clipboard was still in Vare's hand. I checked my rate. Still 1%. I hated audits. Vare pointed the clipboard at himself. Administrator command. Override mortal limiters. 9 screamed, no. The clipboard flashed black. Vare absorbed its authority. The sky cracked. His level disappeared. His body lifted off the ground as lines of system text wrapped around him. He had not stolen my inventory interest. He had stolen administrative permission. That might be worse. Vare raised one hand. Every Black Halo soldier in Reedfall gained 50 levels. Every shadow spell doubled in strength. Every wound on his body healed. He smiled down at us. I no longer need your skill. I believed him. Then he pointed at my inventory seal. Rate restriction removed. My heart jumped. Interest rate returned to 8.5%. Then it kept rising. 10%, 20, 50, 100% per day. I stared in horror. Vare laughed. You wanted growth. Enjoy it. At 100% daily interest, every stack doubled every day. That sounded incredible. Then I understood the attack. My inventory had finite interface processing even if physical capacity seemed limitless. If every stack doubled daily without the system's normal safeguards, quantities would explode exponentially. The dangerous soul-bearing items would explode too. Ash Emperor fragments, cursed relics, dragon eggs, living seeds, everything. Vare had turned my greatest power into a bomb. 9 shouted, he removed the authority governor. Your account will collapse under uncontrolled replication. How long? At this rate? Days. Vare vanished through a shadow portal. He did not need to defeat me. He just needed to wait for my inventory to destroy itself. I opened the interface. Stacks were already recalculating. A countdown appeared. Next interest event, 11 hours, 43 minutes. At midnight, everything would double. The Ash Emperor fragment stack currently held 1 active piece because the others were separated in vaults. Tomorrow, 2. Next day, 4. Then 8. Resonance would reconstruct his consciousness almost immediately. The dragon egg stack would double too. World tree seeds. Mythic cursed mantles. Every unstable fusion experiment I had forgotten, including the backward gun. I needed to remove dangerous stacks before midnight. So we began the largest warehouse clearance in history. We opened every secure vault, dungeon chamber, dragon warehouse, and empty field we controlled. I dumped items out as fast as possible. Rare cursed objects went into isolated boxes. Dragon eggs went to Voradrax. World tree seeds went into a protected valley. Ash Emperor fragments were split across separate dungeon floors. Sunfall was still tied to the prison seal. The treasury dumped millions of items into storage halls. The problem was that my inventory contained years of forgotten junk. 900,000 spoons, 12 million boots, 40 million clay cups, billions of nails, enough rice to bury a city. I could not empty it all before midnight. Nara organized thousands of volunteers. Adventurers carried crates. Dragons flew shipments. Golems stacked materials. Reedfall became a mountain range of my old purchases. People came from neighboring towns just to see it. One child climbed a hill made entirely of hats. I told him to be careful. Then 9 found the real problem. Kale, her voice was quiet. I turned. She pointed at a hidden inventory category I had never seen before. Accrued possibility debt. The number was enormous. Apparently every time my rate increased beyond the original 1%, the system had been subsidizing the extra growth through Treasury Authority reserves. Those bonuses were legitimate because I had crossed rarity thresholds, but Vare's forced 100% rate had no reserve backing. At midnight, the inventory would try to pull impossible amounts from probability. The local deficit would not be square eggs this time. Reality around me could collapse. How large an area? I asked. 9 looked at the calculation. Potentially the continent. Nara stopped writing. That was how I knew it was serious. We needed to restore the governor. Only the stolen clipboard could do it. Vare had taken it. We had less than 12 hours. I knew where he would go. The labyrinth. With administrator authority, he could finally access the Ash Emperor directly. And if my inventory was going to start producing heart fragments uncontrollably, Vare would want the original source too. Dividend carried us back to the labyrinth at full speed. 9 came with us. Nara came. Seraphine came. The silver ferrets came. Vordrax joined halfway there with 3 adult dragons. Archmage Tessel arrived by teleporting onto Dividend's back without permission. Bram screamed and almost fell off. Tessel said, "I heard reality is ending." I glared at him. "This started with your time chamber. You pressed the button. You built the button. That is not legally the same." Nara shouted, "Both of you shut up." We obeyed. The labyrinth was already changing when we arrived. Every door stood open. Every guardian knelt. Black halo symbols covered the entrance. Vare had seized administrator control. We descended using the dungeon lift this time. There had been a lift. A lift. I thought about the flying bladder wagon. Sir Aldrin refused to meet my eyes. You knew. The lift requires administrator authority. You had administrator authority after floor 100. I forgot. I nearly stored him. The lift reached floor 100 in 3 minutes. Vare waited there. He stood beside the original Sunfall blade. The stolen clipboard had fused into his left arm, becoming lines of golden script across black armor. The Ash Emperor's prison was open below him. Not broken. Open, like a door. The Emperor stood inside the fire, awake and smiling. Vare had not freed him yet. They were talking. That was somehow worse. The Ash Emperor looked at me. His voice shook the dungeon. "So this is the little thief who has been growing pieces of my heart." I pointed at Vare. "He started it." Vare looked offended. The Emperor laughed. Flames rolled across the ceiling. "I can feel my fragments. 12 outside. 1 within you. More waiting to be born. Not for long." "Oh? I'm fixing the interest rate." The Emperor looked at Vare's administrator arm. Vare smiled. "That requires this." I checked the time. 2 hours until midnight. We attacked. Everything happened at once. 3 dragons breathed fire and lightning. Tessel froze time around half the platform. 9 summoned golden system chains. Mira filled the chamber with wind blades. Doss charged behind 2 sunshade shields. Pell vanished. Bram shouted his name for no useful reason. Seraphine threw enough poison to assassinate a city. Vare raised 1 administrator command. Deny. Every attack vanished. Not blocked. Denied. The dragon's breath disappeared. Tessel's spell collapsed. The poison ceased to exist. Bram kept running because apparently his sword attack was too ordinary for the system to bother denying. Vare punched him through a pillar. The pillar collapsed. Bram crawled out. I helped. He had, technically. The fallen pillar created cover. I used it to get closer. Vare saw me anyway. Deny inventory. My interface closed. I froze. For the first time since I was 16, I had no inventory. No millions of shields. No potions. No stupid hats. Just Kale. I hated it. Vare walked toward me. "You have spent years hiding behind quantity." "Correct. What are you without it?" "Poorly trained." He swung. I ducked. His fist cracked stone. I ran. No shame. Running had kept me alive longer than bravery ever did. He chased me across floor 100. I threw a loose rock. He ignored it. I threw my shoe. He blocked it. Interesting. He reacted to the shoe. I threw the other shoe. He blasted it away. The man had trauma. I kept him focused on me while 9 studied the administrator script. Tessel whispered to her. Seraphine crawled toward the prison anchors. Pell remained invisible. Then the Ash Emperor spoke. Vare stopped. "Release me. After the merchant is dead, you presume to make me wait." Vare looked toward the prison. That was the opening. Pell appeared behind him, not to steal the clipboard, it was fused to his arm. So Pell stole the entire sleeve. His master thief skill ignored equipment ownership for 1 second. The sleeve vanished. Vare's golden script flickered. 9 shouted, "Now." My inventory reopened. 1 hour, 11 minutes until midnight. I did not attack Vare. I attacked his rules. I used fusion. The interface still recognized 9's administrator signature because she was standing beside me. I selected a duplicate Grave Prince mantle from my inventory. Then I selected one of the ancient prison lock runes. Fusion. Success. Administrator binding cloak. Effect. Restricts system permission use while worn. I pulled it out. Vare recognized the mantle. His mantle. Or rather, a copy of the one I stole from him. He froze for half a second. I threw it. He cut it apart. That seemed like failure. Then every torn piece transformed into binding script. The cloak wrapped around his body. His administrator commands locked. 9 lunged. Golden chains pinned his left arm. "Remove authority override," she shouted. Vare fought back. The Ash Emperor roared. The entire prison began opening. 37 minutes. Tessel attacked the administrator script with time magic. Seraphine injected Vare with something bright blue. He shouted, "What was that?" She said, "Experimental." He started glowing. She wrote in her notebook, "Very experimental." Bram grabbed Vare's right arm. Das grabbed his left. Mira pinned the chains with wind. Voradrax transformed into a dragon and bit the floor around him, which was not elegant but helped. I reached for the golden script. Vare looked me in the eyes. "You think restoring the limit saves you?" "Yes. You have already changed too much." "Probably. The Treasury noticed you." That made me hesitate. He smiled. "Do you think Auditor 9 came because of one temporal trick? Your account has been visible for months. Every divine copy, every rarity threshold, every impossible transaction." 9 shouted, "Do not listen." Vare continued, "They are coming." "Who?" "The owners." The Ash Emperor laughed behind him. Vare whispered, "And they do not like mortals getting rich." 21 minutes. I ripped the administrator authority out of his arm. It felt like pulling burning wire through my soul. Golden symbols exploded across the chamber. 9 caught them. The clipboard reformed in her hand. She slammed one command, "Restore account governor." My interest rate dropped. 100%. 50. 20. 8.5. Then it stopped. I stared. 9 stared. "Why is it not returning to 1? I asked. She checked the clipboard. Her face changed. "Your rarity thresholds are valid." The penalty seal was destroyed with my stolen credential. So the system recognizes 8.5% as your lawful rate. I smiled. Nara smiled. Even in the middle of an apocalypse, Prophet felt nice. Then midnight arrived. The interest event triggered. Every stored stack gained 8.5%. The world did not collapse. The Ash Emperor heart fragment increased slightly but did not reach another whole unit. Reality held. We had done it. Then the Ash Emperor broke one chain. We had been so focused on Vare that we forgot the ancient fire tyrant was standing 10 yards away. His arm reached through the prison barrier. He grabbed Vare. Vare screamed. The Emperor dragged him into the fire. I expected him to burn. Instead, the flames entered Vare's body. The Emperor was using him as a vessel. 9 shouted, "Seal the prison!" The original Sunfall blade ignited, but one blade was not enough anymore. The 3 copies still anchored the other points, yet Vare's administrator tampering had damaged their connection. I needed more divine anchors. Sunfall was still finishing its old interest debt. I could not rely on natural copies. I checked temporal advance. Available. Apparently the debt had finally expired during everything else. I selected Sunfall. Borrow 30 days. Quantity surged from 1 linked template to over 10 total instances across the system. I pulled out 6 new Sunfall copies. Ravian's spirit screamed inside my head. Why are there so many of me? Emergency. I threw divine swords around the prison platform. Not at enemies, into the floor. Each sword became a seal anchor. 9 redirected system chains through them. Tessel locked the moment with Chrono Silver. Mira poured wind into the flames. Das held one sword upright despite his gloves burning. Bram grabbed another. This time, he did not fall into hay. Pell held one while complaining that divine swords were terrible thief weapons because they glowed too much. Seraphine poured Dawn Lotus extract over the damaged runes. Voradrax and the other dragons pressed their claws into the outer circle. Golden light filled floor 100. The Ash Emperor roared through Vare's mouth. "You cannot cage me forever." I shouted back, "I don't need forever." That was the truth. I needed time. Time was the one resource I always turned into more. The seal closed. Vare's body disappeared behind the fire. The Emperor sank with him. The platform repaired itself. The extra sunfall blades locked into place. Silence returned for about 3 seconds. Then every copied sunfall blade began talking at once. Ravian's spirit had duplicated with the item. 7 voices shouted different complaints inside my head. What have you done? This is sacrilege! Why is that man holding me upside down? Which one is original? I am original. No, I am. Bram looked at his sword. Mine likes me. His sunfall spirit shouted, I do not. I laughed so hard I had to sit down. We survived. Vera was sealed with the Ash Emperor. The audit was over. The continent was intact. My legal interest rate was 8.5%, and I had accidentally created a council of angry first heroes. For the first time in months, I thought maybe things would calm down. That thought lasted until we returned to Reedfall. The city had changed while we were gone, not destroyed, expanded. My emergency inventory dump had left enough goods outside to supply nations. Merchants, guilds, nobles, refugees, blacksmiths, farmers, scholars, and dragon representatives had all gathered around the piles. Nobody knew what belonged to whom. Nara looked at the mountains of materials, then at me. We need to organize this. I looked across millions of crates. No. Yes. I would rather fight the Ash Emperor again. I can arrange that. We organized it. It took weeks. During those weeks, my power continued compounding. 8.5% per day. The numbers became ridiculous again. World tree seeds became groves. Phoenix feathers became sacks. Dragon bone ingots became warehouses. Mythic mantles became uniforms we absolutely did not distribute because an army wearing Ver's ancestral robes would send the wrong message. The Dawn Lotus petals became common enough that Seraphine could finally use them freely in medicine. She created cures for mana poisoning, cursed blood, damaged magic channels, and a disease that had killed children in the northern provinces for generations. We gave that cure away. Nara did not object. Some things should not be scarce. That became our new rule. Food, basic medicine, clean water tools, simple weapons for monster defense, and disaster supplies went out cheaply or free. Rare luxury materials stayed controlled. Dangerous artifacts stayed locked. Divine items stayed very locked. Ash Emperor fragments stayed in separate places guarded by dragons, dungeon wardens, magical seals, and signs saying, "This will kill you." The signs helped more than expected. People ignore magical warnings. They respect direct language. Arden Logistics stopped pretending to be a normal merchant company. We built a new headquarters outside Reedfall. It had warehouses, laboratories, training fields, dragon landing towers, portal rooms, a free hospital, and an entire building devoted to Nara's ledgers. That building had more security than the Divine Vault. Nara insisted. Bram founded a training academy. He named it Bram's Heroic Institute. I changed the sign at night to Bram's Acceptable Institute. He changed it back. We continued for months. Mira became one of the strongest wind mages in the kingdom, using duplicated rare crystals for training. Doss developed a shield style based entirely on carrying absurd numbers of shields and replacing them whenever one broke. Pell became head of security, which was the funniest possible career for a thief. Seraphine became director of research and was legally forbidden from testing unknown substances on kings without consent. She complained that the rule was too specific. Dividend grew larger than a house. His hoard pocket rate increased to 1%. He now generated enough gold to pay for his own food, which was good because he ate livestock like snacks. Voradrax called him the future of dragon finance. I called him a tax problem. Auditor 9 did not leave. That surprised me. She claimed she needed to observe my account after the incident. Nara gave her an office. Within a month, 9 was helping with compliance paperwork. Apparently, Celestial Administration paid poorly. She liked our coffee. Life became almost peaceful. Almost. Then a package arrived. No messenger, no portal signature, no magic trace. 1 second the table in my office was empty. The next, a black box sat on it. 9 saw the box and dropped her coffee. I had never seen her afraid before. "What is that?" I asked. She did not answer. The box opened by itself. Inside was 1 coin, not gold, not silver, black metal with a white star stamped in the center. My appraisal skill failed. Then my inventory interface opened without permission. Unknown external currency detected. Treasury tier asset. Interest compatible. 9 shouted, "Do not store it." The coin vanished into my inventory automatically. Quantity 1. A new system window appeared. Treasury account linked. External market connection pending. I stood up slowly. What external market? 9 looked like she wanted to run. The one your skill came from. My inventory changed. For years it had shown my personal storage categories. Now a new tab appeared. Market. I selected it. The interface expanded across the entire room. Listings appeared. Items I had never heard of. Planet cores. Dragon god eggs. Bottled storms. Artificial moons. Immortal contracts, dead star fragments, kingdom seeds, time crystals, soul engines. One listing simply said ocean, slightly used, price 12 black star coins. I checked my balance, 1 black star coin. Interest rate 8.5% per day. My mouth opened. If the coin multiplied like everything else, I could eventually buy from this market. 9 grabbed my shoulders. Kale, listen to me. Do not purchase anything. I looked at the listings. Why? Because this market is used by entities that own worlds. That sounds expensive. This is not about price. Everything is about price eventually. Some sellers are gods. Some are dimensional predators. Some are dead civilizations running automated shops. Some products are sealed because entire universes banned them. I scrolled. There was a sword labeled Star Eater's Tooth. Divine grade was not even listed. Its rarity showed transcendent. Price 3 coins. 3. I owned one. At 8.5% daily interest, 1 coin would become 3 surprisingly soon. 9 slapped my hand away from the interface. No, I'm only looking. You said that before hatching dividend. That was different. You said that before buying the world tree seed. Also different. You said that before the time chamber. I did not build that. Tessel shouted from another room. Correct. 9 glared toward the wall. I kept scrolling. Then I found something that made me stop joking. A listing with no price. Item Treasury Authority Fragment. Description. Grants ownership rights over compound storage, asset replication, and possibility extraction. Quantity available 8. There were 8 more fragments of my power. My inventory interest was only 1 piece. 9 saw the listing. Her face went pale. That should not be public. What happens if someone buys them? If one entity gathers enough treasury fragments, they can control the rules that govern your inventory, like there with the clipboard, except permanently. Who owns these? The seller field loaded. Seller, Treasury Liquidation Office. Account status? Deceased. 9 whispered. Impossible. What? The treasury is not supposed to be dead. Then the quantity changed. 8 became 7. Someone had bought one. A cold feeling moved through me. Another system notification appeared. Competing authority holder detected. Distance, unknown. Then another. Interest authority challenge available. Winner may claim a percentage of defeated account growth. I stared at the message. Somewhere in another kingdom, another world, or another dimension, someone had just purchased a piece of the same power I had, and the system was encouraging us to compete. I closed the market window. For once, I did not feel greedy. I felt hunted. 9 looked at me. We need to secure the remaining fragments before others do. Nara entered carrying a ledger. How much? There is no listed price. Then find out. Seraphine leaned through the door. Can we duplicate the black coin? Yes, she smiled. Bram appeared behind her. Are we fighting another god? No. Good. Maybe several. He sighed. Dividend pushed his giant head through the window and tried to eat the black coin icon on the floating screen. I shoved his nose away. Then a new message arrived. Not system text. A direct account message. Sender hidden. The words appeared slowly. Kale Arden, I know what you are storing. I know about the Sunfall copies. I know about the Ash Emperor fragments. I know about your dragon, and I know your interest rate. I kept reading. You think rare items are your greatest investment. You are wrong. The rarest item in any world is a world itself. My stomach tightened. The final line appeared. Store yours while you still can. Then every alarm in Readfall activated. 9 looked toward the sky. The sun had gone dark. Not eclipsed. Gone. For 3 seconds there was nothing above us but stars. Then the sun returned. People screamed in the streets. Tessel ran outside. Voradrax transformed into dragon form. Mira summoned wind around the headquarters. I opened my inventory. A new slot had appeared without my permission. It was empty. The slot name made no sense. World Asset Storage. Capacity 1. Requirement. Obtain ownership recognition. I stared at it. 9 stared too. That function should require a complete treasury authority. I do not have a complete treasury authority. No. Then why do I have the slot? She looked at the black star coin, then at the market, then at me. Because someone is forcing your authority to evolve. Another direct message appeared. Prepare. 30 days until collection. I felt the entire planet tremble, not like an earthquake. Like something far away had touched the world and checked whether it was ripe. My inventory interest ticked upward. Black star coin, 1.085. 1 day later, it would grow again. Then again. 30 days. At 8.5% per day, 1 coin would become more than 11. Enough to buy the Star Eater's Tooth. Enough to buy the slightly used ocean. Maybe enough to bid on things I could not imagine. But whoever sent that message was coming in 30 days. And they were not coming for my money. They were coming for the world. Bram looked at me. So what is the plan? I stared at the impossible market listings. I looked at my mountain of multiplying relics. I looked at Dividend, who had somehow stolen Nara's ink bottle and was chewing it. I looked at the world's storage slot. Then I smiled. It was the same smile Nara hated. The expensive smile. The stupid smile. The smile that started with one loaf of bread and ended with me considering how to hide an entire planet inside my inventory. We have 30 days. I said. Nara immediately opened a fresh ledger. 9 grabbed the celestial rulebook. Tessel started drawing a machine before I even explained what I wanted. Seraphine asked whether a planet counted as a living item. Pell asked whether stealing ownership of a world was technically theft if nobody carried it in their pocket. Doss ordered more shields. Mira started yelling at everyone. Bram climbed onto a table. I knew destiny would call me again. The table broke. Dividend ate one of the pieces. Outside, thousands of warehouse golems started moving supplies. Dragons launched from the towers. Dungeon portals opened. World tree leaves lit the night like green stars. The sunfall blades began arguing inside the vault, and deep beneath the labyrinth of 10,000 doors, Ver opened his eyes inside the Ash Emperor's fire. He was smiling too. I did not know who had sent the message. I did not know what a complete treasury authority could do. I did not know how anyone was supposed to store a world, but I knew one thing. 30 days was a long time for me. 30 days meant interest. 30 days meant copies. 30 days meant one legendary item could become 10. 10 could become 100. And one stupid idea could become everybody's problem. So if some cosmic collector wanted my world, fine, they could come collect it. By the time they arrived, I planned to own so much impossible nonsense that even the gods would need a bigger inventory.